Are you struggling with minorities? Are you constantly having to deal with the others in your neighborhood? Did you move out to the suburbs and hope that everybody would look like you and also have the same thoughts and prayers as you? Are you finding that there are some people that just need to be helped, that need to be saved from themselves? Come to the American Redoubt. There's a future for you, right here in the American Redoubt, right past the border of Canada and right past the border of Washington. Come to the American Redoubt. Enjoy the vistas. Enjoy the lack of diversity. Enjoy the oppression. It's yours to wield as you wish in the Redoubt. For far too long, we've watched these beautiful visions of patriotism being snuffed out by windmills. These treacherous windmills ruthlessly taking the life of these majestic patriots. How could we stand by and let all this happen? We needed to do something. A change had to come. Luckily, a man showed up. A man showed up and saved the Eagles. And that man's name was Donald J. Trump. In 2016, the savior of this symbol of America came. And all of a sudden, the eagle population was on the rise again. Never in the history of the world has anybody ever seen such population growth. This man truly was sent by a higher power to grow this population of American symbolism, to bring all of these like-minded, white-headed eagles together, to grow when they were once shrinking. These white-headed patriots found themselves flourishing with this guy. Fucking hilarious.
Okay, we are just gonna get started because there's a lot to do today. Okay, so here's what we're doing today. And I know nobody's here, but that's okay. This will work for the video. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to start by giving you a quick overview of the JonBenet Ramsey case. Then I am going to go through a lot of stuff about the Boulder PD and kind of the climate that's been around the Boulder PD, not just like back when this murder happened in 1996, but even up to today, and how dysfunctional the Boulder Police Department it just is. We're going to look at criminal convictions of cops, as well as an ongoing problem that just as recently as 3 months ago is still occurring. Then we're going to get into, I have 4 different press conferences that are back in 1997. Off the top of my head, I think the dates are like January 3rd, January 7th, February 13th, and then early March. The February 13th is a long one. It's about an hour long, and DA Alex Hunter is at that one. I thought these were interesting and worth looking at because they probably go overlooked, but it gives a lot of insight into how the Ramseys, by the general public, have been considered the most likely suspects, because it 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 tracks with how manipulative the Boulder Police Department was and how uniformly focused on the family they were, as we've talked about in other episodes, to the point where the people that they brought in to help them, Lou Smith and other experts, when the experts didn't agree with their theory that started on day one, they got rid of the experts. They ignored the experts. They tried to claim that they had ulterior motives. And you'll see that's that's how police departments are in general. But you'll see this is an ongoing issue with the Boulder police. So this is their house. As I tell you about the crime, I'll play these couple videos I took of the property, keeping in mind that this fencing wasn't there back then. So in 1996, December 26th of 1996, Patsy Ramsey claims she came across, just before 6 in the morning, she came across a 3-page letter across the bottom stair of a spiral staircase claiming to have kidnapped her daughter. She called 911. Within about 10 minutes, the police showed up. Within 20 minutes, a bunch of cops were there. In addition to a bunch of cops, there were a dozen or so friends, I think, of the Ramseys that were there at the same time. And it just turns out that the police had no experience dealing with murders or really kidnappings. They weren't used to this stuff. And plus it was Christmas. So that is their excuse for why they bungled the crime scene so much, destroyed so much evidence, didn't secure the crime scene, weren't the ones that found the body in the house, actually touched the body and messed up with the evidence. And then from the very beginning, all of their assertions were that there were no intruders, so it had to be a Ramsey family member. And then they started smashing together theories that would justify their focus on the Ramseys. And sadly, most of their Ramsey theories are based on speculation that when you do the speculation, it doesn't fit into the rest of the crime. Each of the individual explanations they give, there's no complete understanding of what they claim the Ramseys did. And the problem that I'm having is this video you see right here. There's a door right here that was supposedly open that morning. What up, Rumble? And somehow they ignore the fact that the door was open to say there were no visible signs of a break-in, except for the broken window that could have been used for somebody to go through, and this supposedly open door. So from the very, very beginning, the police were solely focused on the Ramsey. There is a detective, Linda Arndt, who claims within minutes of John Ramsey finding his daughter dead in their house, she claims she knew immediately that he was the killer. And she's never wavered since. And the problem is when you, before you have any evidence, have already made a decision, and then your entire department will only focus on that one decision, and everything they present to the public is only about that one decision, then you start to see a pattern of how, one, the public believes the way they do, and two, how the cops didn't resolve this. Give me 1 second. My dogs are doing something. Hold on. Stop it. What are you doing? Sorry. They're very quiet dogs, so when they start yelling at each other, you have no idea what's actually going on. It gets a little scary. Okay, so let's hop into our first section that I said would be, let's look into the Boulder police and what's been going on in Boulder. So this video is from only 3 months ago, January 6th. And the title of this says, Police Investigate Reported Sexual Assault on Boulder Bike Path. Okay, so here's the story.
Morning, sexual assault reported along a bike path in Boulder, and police are now searching for 2 men they say were involved. This happened around 3 Saturday morning at a bike path near Foothills Parkway and Baseline Road. Fox 31's Rogelio Mares has details live in studio.
Yeah, Kim, most people know you'll find a number of bike paths in Boulder and on them a cyclist at most any time.
Wait a second. I thought that was maybe the King's Super right here where the shooting was, but I might be wrong about that.
A number of bike paths in Boulder and on them a cyclist at most any time of the day. Along this path, though, early Saturday morning, Boulder police say a woman was on a walk. She reported being sexually assaulted by a man on that path, but police are actually searching for 2 men connected to this case. One suspect was described as a man with forehead-length brown hair with a deep, low voice. There was no description for the second suspect involved. Because it is early on in their investigation, police said they had no other details to provide. Anyone with information is asked to get in touch with the Boulder PD detective in charge of this case. We have their contact information on our website, kdvr.com. In studio, Rogelio Mares.
Okay, so that was 3 months ago. And why do I think it's important to show that? Well, remember, this murder of JonBenet Ramsey is considered also a sex crime. She was likely molested at the time of her murder, and there was an ongoing seeming issue of child predation in Boulder at the time that was like an open secret, if you will. So this one takes us back 11 years to 2012. Remember, the crime was 96. So this is 2012. It says Boulder police boost patrols after kidnapped sex assault. So here we are 11 years before in the same perfect small town of Boulder, Colorado. Another attempted kidnapping and sexual assault.
New at 10, the search is on for this man. Police say he's behind a kidnapping and sexual assault of a young woman. The 26-year-old was taken near 13th and Spruce early Sunday morning in Boulder. She was then taken to a home and assaulted in the area of 17th and University. And now 7 News learning police are stepping up patrols. 7 News reporter Mark Stewart is live in Boulder. Mark, police are looking for 2 people.
2 people, and this all happened as the bars were letting out in this general neighborhood, 13th and Spruce, the big landmark being the Hotel Boulderado. According to police, the woman was forced into an SUV. 2 men then drove her away several blocks away, and then they say they attacked her.
I think it's horrible. You know, you should feel safe. Boulder's a safe town.
For downtown Boulder regulars, the idea of a random abduction is hard to believe.
We often walk around freely and feel very safe.
It's a place where the streets are always busy, even when it's dark.
There's always people on the streets, always.
Yet it's in this general area where a woman tells Boulder police she was abducted and then taken to a home somewhere near 17th and Arapahoe and then sexually assaulted. This is a police sketch of one of the men. Police say the woman got away using a payphone at 28th and Arapahoe, where she called a friend for help.
You feel safe, even walking around late at night and things are happening and many people around.
The fact this crime appears to be random is one of the prime reasons police are so concerned.
Stranger sex assaults are fairly unusual. The majority of the sex assaults that the Boulder PD investigates are acquaintance assaults, and so this is unusual.
And that man in the sketch is described as being as heavyset, the SUV light blue in color with a light interior. Live in Boulder tonight, Mark Stewart, 7 News.
Unbelievable. I'm getting emails about checking out science debates that are important science debates on Joe Rogan. What up, Mulder? I love Jungler, but getting my obvious alternate fact science from Joe Rogan. Like I get all my medical advice from him too. Okay, so that was 11 years ago. Please hit that like button. That was 11 years ago. Here's 9 years ago. February.
Harris works at the Snarfburger restaurant at 20th and Arapahoe. She says if a sexual assault happened at 3:30 in the afternoon, it's alarming.
Oh, my bad.
A news alert now. A woman in Boulder sexually assaulted, and it happened right in the middle of the afternoon. So police are now asking for help in finding the man responsible. 7 News reporter Lance Hernandez working on this story all day. And Lance, the woman is not the one who called police.
And it was a nurse at a hospital in Longmont who called police after that woman walked into the hospital and told them she'd been sexually assaulted here in Boulder.
The woman told police she was walking near 20th and Arapahoe when an unknown man
Almost sounds like the same thing that happened 2 years earlier.
grabbed both her arms and dragged her into some nearby bushes, then assaulted her. The alleged attack happening in broad daylight.
Did you hear any screams? Did you hear any scuffling at all yesterday?
Not at all. Not at all. No activity or anything. Really.
Lexi Harris works at the Snarfburger restaurant at 20th and Arapahoe. She says if a sexual assault happened at 3:30 in the afternoon, it's alarming. She's never had a problem walking in the neighborhood.
I always have pepper spray with me. In this area, I've never really heard
I've never had a problem. It seems safe. That's why I have pepper spray.
of much going on, so it's kind of a little surprising.
Pamela Senna said she thinks there's a big difference in safety between night and day.
I never walk alone at night. I always have friends walk me home, or I basically never go out at night.
What about daytime?
Daytime, I'm walking around a lot by myself.
So that was February 6th, okay?
Now the suspect described as a white male
February 6th of 2015.
with medium length dark brown hair. He's also got either green
Medium length, dark brown hair. So the one from 3 months ago was brown, forehead length brown hair. This one from 9 years ago is short, like brown hair.
or blue eyes, what's described as a big nose and a pointy face. Anyone that heard or saw anything that happened in this area yesterday afternoon about 3:30, you're asked to contact either Boulder Police or Northern Colorado Crime.
Okay, and then this was about a month later.
Police investigating a possible sex assault over the weekend on campus. 7 News reporter Tyler Lopez is in Boulder with the story this morning. And Tyler, what do we know?
Limited information right now, Kelly. A woman reporting a possible incident on campus over the weekend. And that's really as far as police here on campus have gone with the description. Take a look at some of the particulars we do know about this incident. It was on Saturday, so about 36 hours ago. This also gives you some idea on location. Police saying the timing for this alleged incident was late Saturday afternoon, so that's still in broad daylight. So even with limited weekend traffic, there may be witnesses to this case. The alleged assault happening near the Norland Library. That's the northwest section of campus, diagonal from where we are now at the police side. The belief is that the assault took place between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m. That's it. No suspect description, no sketch, no information on how the alleged victim is doing, but they are asking for your information. If you have anything you want to pass along to police, the number to call here is 303-492-6666. Live in Boulder, Tyler Lopez, 7 News Now.
A news alert now. A woman in Boulder sexually assaulted,
Stop.
and it happened right.
Okay, then here, this is about, that was March, mid-March. This is June of 2015.
In a developing story, Boulder police trying to find the man who sexually assaulted or tried to sexually assault a woman just north of the CU campus. 7 News reporter Jennifer Kovaleski live in Boulder tonight. And Jen, police say the man knocked the woman over.
Mark,
So this is 3 in the matter of 6 months. 5 months.
Guy was bold. Police say a 33-year-old woman was walking along this bike path at around 12:15 last night when a man knocked her to the ground and tried to sexually assault her. Police tell 7 News the woman was able to yell for help, and that's when her attacker ran. There were also several witnesses who were able to help the woman. It happened near the intersection of 28th Street and Iris Avenue. We talked to people who were shocked to hear about an attack on such a popular bike path.
I'm actually surprised. It doesn't really feel like a particularly high-risk area around here, but I think anywhere late at night can be risky if you're a female and you're alone. I think that's just the reality.
The suspect is described as a white male between 25 to 35 years old. Anyone with information is asked to call Boulder Police. Mark?
All right, Jen, thanks very much.
So what were the cops doing at the time? Surely with all of that going on, the cops were like really trying to crack down and figure out the problem.
News at 5 starts with a developing story.
So this is 2 months. Wait, this is before. Okay. So the first one that I showed you was 3 months ago, then 11 years ago, and then the ones from 9 years ago, roughly, all started, it was February, March, and June. This is September the year before, September of 2014.
A Boulder cop who investigated child sex crimes, he's now charged with helping someone get away with them. Veteran police detective Jack Gardner accused of tipping off a man investigated for online child.
Oh, got it. So the guy, a guy in charge of investigating these ongoing sex crimes, which don't seem to stop, he is accused of helping a sexual assault suspect. This is why it's always bothered me about the way the Boulder police handled the JonBenet Ramsey case, because like if a cop was involved in that crime or knew who was involved in that crime and was covering it up, then the way the Boulder police behaved is exactly how you would want to behave to help cover up the crime.
And 7 News at 5 starts with a developing story. A Boulder cop who investigated child sex crimes, he's now charged with helping someone get away with them. Veteran police detective Jack Gardner accused of tipping off a man investigated for online child sex exploitation. Jacqueline Allen is live at the Boulder County Jail right now. Jacqueline, why would he want to tip him off?
And that's the question. You know, records don't indicate that they knew each other or were connected in any way, but that Detective Gardner may have just been mad that he had been left out of that undercover sting to arrest.
So it may, you know, we're just going to guess. It probably wasn't that he also enjoys molesting children or, you know, has this job. You know, like some people have mental illness and are abused, so they go to college and they learn psychology and they become therapists. Other people, maybe they just like child sex crimes and then they become a cop who investigates child sex crimes.
The guy. Now, here's the good news. Even though the sting was blown, police say they had enough evidence to arrest the man they call a predator, and he was just in court here for the first time a few hours ago. Boulder police were investigating this man, Khalil Peckham. They say he sent more than 700 texts and sexually graphic exchanges to what he thought was a 13-year-old girl responding to his ad on Craigslist. Turns out it was an undercover cop. But when he was supposed to finally meet with the 13-year-old, he backed out and said he'd gotten a warning message from someone. Still, Boulder police had enough for a search warrant, and records show they found child porn and graphic exchanges with a real teenage girl in his home. Soon, Boulder police traced the
Boulder police officer in charge of investigating sex crimes tipped off somebody who has child porn and was communicating with a child. I mean, to me, that seems like the police are complicit with child sex crimes. I mean, that's what that seems like to me, is an instance in 2014 where a cop is accused of being complicit with crimes of fucking child pornography content stuff.
Warning message back to their own department. To prevent any conflict, Jeffco DA Peter Weir was called in to investigate.
No one is above the law. The law applies to all of us equally.
He says the evidence led to decorated detective Jack Gardner, seen here in a Boulder Daily camera photo, accepting an award. Investigators say Gardner sent the warning from the police station and from his computer used to investigate crimes against children.
Why would a decorated detective tip off an...
How many other people has he helped? How did he know this person? Were they friends? Do they run in the same circles?
Internet luring suspect.
The affidavit indicates that Detective Gardner felt excluded from that investigation.
Oh, his feelings were hurt, so he decided to help a child predator. Is that what I'm supposed to believe? His feelings were hurt, so he was helping a child predator. Really? That's what we're going with?
And perhaps had some heartburn over that.
So heartburn is a reason to aid and abet child sex predation. And we're just going to pretend like that's normal, right, Boulder?
Now, the affidavit states Gardner told police someone else could have sent the message from his computer. He's bonded out of the jail here now, but the DA says evidence shows it was Gardner who sent that message, and he will be in court in about 2 weeks. Meanwhile, today here, a judge denied Peckham's request for a bond reduction. He is being held on $50,000 bond. Reporting live, Jacqueline Allen, 7.
So the interesting thing is Boulder police corruption is par for the course. So here's shortly before that was September of 2014. Here's June, 3 months before that.
Deliberated for about 4 hours, and when all
7 News starts with breaking news. The unforgettable and disturbing image of a Boulder police officer standing over a prized elk that he had killed. Now that
what's up, Meatbag? No one's above the law. Tell that to the 40% of cops who commit domestic violence and still have a job. Yeah, you're going to hear, surely there's going to be a thing where like 5 officers were caught not doing their job. And wait till you hear what happens to those officers that are caught not doing their job.
officer is found guilty of all 9 counts against him. 7 News reporter Lance Hernandez in the courtroom as the verdict was read within the last 90 minutes. Lance?
Mike, I can tell you this was a very quick verdict by Boulder County standards. Jurors deliberated for about 4 hours, and when all was said and done, they found Sam Carter guilty of 4 felonies and 5 misdemeanors. The district attorney told me afterwards he wasn't surprised.
What is the crime rate of cops in Boulder compared to the crime rate of Boulder?
Will you seek jail time? You know, we haven't decided yet what we will seek. The most important...
Actually, we're just going to reassign them to a different department. We're going to reassign them to Fish and Wildlife.
Important thing to my office in prosecuting this case was to get a felony conviction against Mr. Carter. It's very important for the public to know that if a police officer lies and uses their badge and their uniform to lie and mislead the public, we will go after them and hold them accountable and prevent them from being a police officer.
Right,
Stan Garnett told 7 News that this case was about 2 things.
Right, we're going to prevent them from being a cop. Keep that in mind.
Animal, which he described as an amazing elk that meant a lot to the community, and 2, about the truth and how it was handled by a police officer who didn't want the public to know about the truth. Sam Carter left the Boulder courthouse without comment. He'll be sentenced August 29th.
Now, this was in the middle of those sexual assaults. So this is April of 2015. And it says, outside firm to review Boulder police oversight.
And the Boulder Police Department. Taking a look at race and the Boulder Police Department. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm Tyler Lopez. We're live at City Council chambers, and this is where the city manager is moving forward now with a plan to hire an outside agency to review Boulder police oversight and also arrest statistics that they're concerned about. Take a look. Our partners at the Daily Camera reporting on some of the same numbers we found today on the Boulder Police Department.
Yo, wait a minute. This is inside Rumble. Are you still here? Because you're the math guy. Black people make up 1.3% of the population, but 5% of the arrests, 2% of citations. Daytime population jumps nearly 50%. What does that mean? Well, what does that mean?
website. You can find them this morning too if you'd like, that African Americans made up 1.3% of Boulder's population in 2012, according to police. But between 2012 and 2014, 5% of arrests involved black suspects.
Yeah, that really doesn't seem out of line. I mean, because you're comparing the young population more likely to commit crimes to the old, established, wealthier population. So, like, I bet if you break this down in age, it's probably right in line. Statistically, is this nonsense to what I'm looking at?
A big change, though, in citation numbers, and that's where police say they have more discretion and they can use their judgment more often. There they found that African Americans received only 2% of the tickets. Police also point out the city has a total of 103,000 people, but on a typical weekday, that will jump by nearly 50% to more than 150,000 people. A city manager here is saying, quoted by the camera, she does not believe this is a big statistical problem, but
I don't think it's even a statistical or not, like it's statistically in line. Like, I don't understand. You're gonna hire an outside firm to look at that, but you're not gonna hire an outside firm to look at their ongoing corruption and that they're aiding and abetting fucking child sex assault perpetrators. Okay, so here's 6 years ago.
Sergeant is charged with stalking another CU employee. Michael Dotson has agreed to turn himself in and is now on administrative leave. According to the arrest warrant, Dotson is accused of making unwanted sexual advances to a dispatcher. The victim told officers that he emailed and texted her to the point that she felt she was being harassed. Dotson has worked for CUPD since 1996.
No! Oh, I like that little tidbit. Remembering that the crime happened in 1996.
7 News starts with breaking news. The unforgettable and disturbing image of a Boulder police.
The University of Colorado Boulder.
Ah, damn.
7 News starts with breaking news. The unforgettable and disturbing image of a Boulder police officer.
Taking a look at race and the Boulder Police Department. Good Tuesday morning,
Wait,
everyone.
where
I'm
did it
Tyler
go?
Lopez. We're live at City Council chambers, and this is where the city.
There it goes.
Boulder Police Sergeant is charged with stalking another CU employee. Michael Dotson has agreed to turn himself in and is now on administrative leave. According to the arrest warrant, Dotson is accused of making unwanted sexual advances to a dispatcher. The victim told officers that he emailed and texted her to the point that she felt she was being harassed. Dotson has worked for CUPD since 1996.
7 News starts with.
So here's roughly 3 years ago, back March of 2021, second Boulder police officer placed on administrative leave.
So shots were fired between the police and the suspect, yes, and that's why there's a police officer on administrative leave now.
Oh wait, I can't make that one a big deal. Let's be realistic. This might have been a legit officer-involved shooting. I don't know the story. So putting somebody on leave because they fired their weapon is normal. So I'm not going to count this one as like proof of anything. Here's 2 years ago, in April, CU Boulder officer on leave for alleged comments against unhoused people.
What is that group telling you?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. A lot of questions are being asked about these comments that this police officer from CU Boulder Police Department made on Reddit. And now there's a group here that is calling for him to be fired. CUPD Boulder police officer Drew Matthews has been placed on administrative leave. Matthews allegedly made disparaging comments regarding the homeless, as well as racist comments. Those comments appearing on Reddit. A group called Safe Boulder posted the comments, saying he made them on the social media page. Safe stands for Access for Everyone. The group watches police conduct in Boulder. The organization said it found the officer's Reddit account full of anti-homeless and and anti-black comments. One comment saying the unhoused should be hosed. Another in reference to African Americans being hosed down with fire hoses during the fight for civil rights in the 50s and 60s. A member of the group SAFE told Fox 31 today, "We thought they were reprehensible and disgusting." Comments like that are pretty common, especially on the Boulder subreddit. Boulder's NAACP president said this officer should have been investigated a long time ago.
So those writings certainly were indicative of someone with a long-held ideology, and they were super hateful. I would argue that this is not the first time someone is aware that this person had those types of beliefs.
Yeah, so we're going to water down that we had a racist cop. We're going to water it down and make it sound like it's just like some social media stuff. No big deal, right? So here was a couple months after that.
In April 2019, Boulder police officer...
This is a news article from a couple months after that.
Officer Waylon Lolotai responded to a call about homeless people littering at Mapleton Ball
I'm
Fields.
gonna tell you again, you're going to jail for obstruction, you understand me?
He's talking to Sammy Lawrence, a man who says he wanted to stand close by to watch this interaction at the scene.
Nope, you need to move farther away, and you're holding a weapon, so put it down.
Oh my God, does he have a hockey stick? Is that a hockey stick? Tell me it's a hockey stick. Please tell me it's a hockey stick.
Body cam video from Lawrence's attorney shows Officer Lolotai tell him to move farther back several times. When Lawrence doesn't, the officer arrests him.
Put the stick down, man. Put the stick down.
This is my walking aid, sir.
Sir,
this is my walking Sir, you are harassing me. You are harassing me.
We filed a complaint because it was an unlawful arrest. The claim was that he had obstructed an investigation.
Darren O'Connor is Lawrence's attorney. After filing a federal lawsuit, the city is agreeing to pay $95,000 to settle it.
He wanted to be paid to show that, it vindicates what he said all along, which is that he did nothing wrong.
An independent investigation found Officer Lolotai had probable cause to arrest. The city is not admitting to any wrongdoing, but it did agree to share use of force data to Lawrence's attorney after he says he wanted to find out if force was being used too often.
Information that will allow us to know the average use of force every single month, by which we can then compare Officer Lolotai's use of force in those months.
O'Connor says Lolotai used force almost every week.
No systemic issues here in Boulder. Luckily, we've got it figured out.
Discovery found out that 81 times between the period of January 2017 and the fall of 2020.
While he won't get the data until February, he believes it will show them if that is above average for the department.
Had we had that information from the beginning, before this ever went to a lawsuit, for example, city council members could have looked at that data and said, this is a real problem.
Now, this lawsuit was dismissed after the settlement, but there's still another one against Lolotai. A homeless woman is suing him for excessive force. Lolotai left the department in September of 2020 during an investigation into posts he made on social media. Boulder police say the violations would have only required additional training if he decided to stay.
Now, we expect to find out more about this use of force, but the only reason we're going to know about it is because of this lawsuit.
Yeah, according to the terms in this settlement, the city has to provide this use of force data to the attorney. And again, it's just going to go to his office, but he told me that he plans to make this public so that people beyond his office can see this data too.
Right, so we have an ongoing systemic problem, but also we're going to keep it hidden. We're also going to keep it hidden. Possible when the cop arrived, a cop was already there downstairs. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I would think that cop would have already left the house. I don't think you put the note down until you leave the house.
Yes, this goes back to September of 2018, Jim. There was a young man by the name of Demetrius Shankling who was out celebrating his birthday with some friends, but he had too much alcohol and some drugs. That's when the sheriff's deputies showed up.
Okay, what's your first name? Demetrius. What's that? Demetrius.
He was intoxicated with alcohol and drugs.
You're not in trouble. This is just, you're not safe right now.
You're highly intoxicated.
The young man wouldn't step into the van, so the deputy slid him in, face down. The 6-foot Shankling was placed in a 5-foot space, handcuffed behind his back. They drove him 16 minutes to detox, but he was unconscious upon arrival. He died nearly a month later from asphyxiation and the drugs he had taken.
I would spend almost every day with Devo in ICU, just hoping that he would wake up, holding his hand, praying for his life.
The 2 deputies were each convicted of manslaughter. Adam Lunn apologized to the victim's family.
My involvement that night was something that will impact them forever.
Then James O'Brien.
The mistakes that we made, that I made, haunt me to this day. I didn't look in the back of the van.
You know, Boulder's a small fucking town, right? Like 100,000 people, and that includes the college. So, I mean, the percentage of these fucking cops that are getting arrested, that aren't doing their job, that are helping child predators, this is out of control. Like, this percentage is out of control.
There was another container that was longer.
The judge listened patiently.
Every day, I see his face when I pulled him out of the ambulance, trying to revive him.
He was
yeah,
then
I saw that.
sentenced
I saw that. Yeah, Glow. Take this breathalyzer and yeah, blow.
6 years in prison. Lunn was given 3. Sheriff Joe Pelley called this a tragedy that didn't have to happen. The 2 now find themselves on the other side of the law. In Boulder, Rick Salinger covering.
And a year and a half ago,
facing discipline after the department discovered 5 Boulder police officers are facing discipline after the department discovered that a detective was failing to investigate cases. Now the Boulder County DA's office is reviewing a bunch of cases to see what all the detective missed. The police department says it found the issue when it upgraded a computer system. They found several cases assigned to one detective had not been touched over the last 3 years. The city wouldn't tell us how many cases or what kinds of crimes, just that none was a homicide. The detective who failed to investigate the cases will be suspended for 5 days and then reassigned to a different unit. One of the detective's immediate supervisors resigned rather than be fired. Another was suspended for a day.
So what were they being investigated for?
5 Boulder police officers are facing discipline after the department discovered that a detective was failing to investigate cases.
So they weren't doing their job. So these 5 cops disciplined for helping somebody not do their job. So what do we do with these cops? What do we do with cops in charge, entrusted by the state as the only state-sanctioned violence, who were there to serve and protect? How do we handle it when people do not do their job?
Now the Boulder County DA's office is reviewing a bunch of cases to see what all the detective missed. The police department says it found the issue when it upgraded a computer system. They found several cases assigned to one detective had not been touched over the last 3 years. I'm going to get to that. The city wouldn't tell us how many cases or what kinds of crimes, just that none was a homicide. The detective who failed to investigate the
detective suspended 5 days and still given a job. Supervisor given a job. Second supervisor suspended for a day, given his job back. Detective division manager given a new job. Second manager reprimanded, keeps his job, needs training. 5 people proven to have not done their job. And how do the police deal with it? They give them jobs. Can you imagine an actual company saying, you guys all are guilty of not doing your job, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you jobs?
Cases will be suspended for 5 days and then reassigned to a different unit. One of the detective's immediate supervisors resigned rather than be fired. Another was suspended for a day. One manager in the detective division was transferred. Another will have to go through training. The Boulder Police Department will no longer allow detectives to have more than 20 active cases at one time. They'll also start requiring updates on active cases once a month.
Okay, so they were not getting updates on the cases. Even once a month, they were not meeting about open cases. When I was in the mortgage with one mortgage company, I would have like 50 to 70 open leads at a time. I would meet with them multiple times a week, sometimes daily, to give them updates on every one of those leads. And so did the other people in the office. So with mortgage leads, we updated them multiple times a week. With actual crimes, you weren't checking once a month. And finally, this is information about the detective.
Sir Kwame Williams,
or the officer.
Within the detective division, Boulder officer Kwame Williams was in charge of investigating dozens of cases. And then last year, the department accused him of wrongdoing. Over a 3-year period, Officer Williams failed to complete assignments on 46 open cases. An audit by the district attorney's office shared concerns about 5 of them. 5 domestic violence cases that couldn't be prosecuted because the DA's office said the statute of limitations expired. Essentially.
Wait. Case status category. Criminal case resulted. District attorney declined. Statute of limitations. Insufficient evidence. Outside agency assist. Unattended death natural. Unattended death suicide.
As the DA's office said, the statute of limitations expired.
So 5 domestic violence cases.
Essentially, too much time had passed.
When a survivor isn't taken seriously the first time that they engage with the system, or their experience is negative with the system, oftentimes they won't go to the police the next time that it happens.
Simone Williams works for Safe House Denver, which supports survivors. She can't talk about the cases in Boulder, but she can share the impact of lacking police work.
They get the message that my voice doesn't matter, or maybe even what I experienced isn't valid, and we just know that that's just not true.
The district attorney's audit found 3 of the 5 misdemeanor domestic violence cases had enough evidence to support criminal charges. And while investigations were pending under Officer Williams, they say 3 of the defendants committed more crimes.
Oftentimes what happens...
So we got cops making it easier for criminals to commit crimes. We have cops that help make it easier for criminals to commit crimes, get jobs, and covered up. We have police officers getting arrested for manslaughter, slaughtering elks, stalking, sexual harassing. We have an ongoing assault and rape issue in Boulder. And while that was happening, one of the Boulder cops was helping a child predator not get caught. And this mirrors everything I've ever heard about the Boulder police, specifically how the Boulder police were back in the 90s. There were all kinds of stuff that was going on. In addition, there was a ongoing battle between the Boulder police and the district attorney's office. So for us to get a good idea of the climate back then, why don't we jump into press conferences that were going on back then? We've got 4 of them. I'm going to try to get through all 4. This first one happened January 3rd. So like just over a week after the crime. And this is, a good beginning into how the media was handling things and how the police were handling things. You gotta love the public access setup.
I'm Leslie Ahom, AAHOLM, Director of Communication for the City of Boulder. I have just a very brief meeting.
So, communication for the City of Boulder. Where do you think the City of Boulder gets their information on cases?
Update. We've been doing these fairly regularly since the 26th. Following my brief comments, the mayor has a couple of comments that she would like to make.
Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to is how do they talk about the Ramseys? So if you think about, there's two groups of suspects. There's the Ramseys and the not the Ramseys, right? So you got the Ramseys and not the Ramseys. And so if there's two groups, listen to how the focus on these groups occurs.
For the record, it's Mayor Leslie Durgan, L-E-S-L-I-E, Durgan, D-U-R-G-I-N. She is the mayor of the city of Boulder. Boulder police continue their investigation of the Ramsey homicide. This case has been designated as the highest priority for the Boulder Police Department. The latest information...
She got that Nancy Reagan drip, right? She got that full Nancy Reagan drip going on.
That can be released is the following. Police anticipate releasing the crime scene later today, Friday, or at the latest tomorrow, Saturday. They are planning to have their field...
So they have not released the house yet, apparently. As of January 3rd.
Officers who went to the Atlanta area back on Monday, as we indicated yesterday.
Now, they went to Atlanta to investigate background on the Ramseys and other members of the Ramsey family.
Police are aware that the Ramsey family evidently flew back into Jefferson County Airport early.
Jefferson County is basically one county. Jeffco is huge. And Jeffco extends from, like, I think the edge of Boulder County, like almost to roughly, possibly even 45 minutes south of Boulder. Like, it is a huge county.
Early this morning, we have not confirmed a time to speak with the Ramseys. We are working with their attorneys. We will be setting that up. We're in the process of getting that set up. When we have more information on that, we can let you know. But right now, we are in the process of setting up that interview. The voicemail tip line, which many of you so kindly publicized for us, a lot of people have been seeing that number, which is 303-441-4310.
Shout out to the 303.
We have received a substantial number of calls. These have ranged from suggestions, opinions, ideas, to potentially some leads. Police have assigned personnel to monitor and log in those calls. They will be following up on those that seem to have some validity and some importance to the case. There has been a lot of media, I guess, concern about the lack of information or seeming lack of information coming out of the Boulder Police Department. I think on behalf of the police department, I would like to say that in response...
Eat a dick! Oh, that would have been fucking great. On behalf of the Boulder Police, I would like to say, eat a dick.
I think on behalf of the police department, I would like to say that in response to the comments and criticisms about not confirming rumors or providing, in what some people would like, more extensive details of the case, the police department states that they will continue to investigate this case with the highest professional standards. The Boulder Police Department has a long history of being highly professional, of providing very competent police work, and does enjoy the full support of the community. There are certain facts in this case that probably only...
I had my thing on top chat, so I missed some of those chats about the numbers and the percentages. Sounds like racism to me. I don't know. The way the standard deviation would work on that 5% compared to 1.3, you have to take into account the demographics that commit the most crime. And I don't mean like 1350 type demographic. I mean, if you look at of the people that commit crime, the percentage of that group is probably a higher minority than the total percentage. Like, of all of the professional class in Boulder, like almost none of it was black. The percentage of black people in Boulder would have been a younger college group, with all due respect, college athletes. And that group, like the fraternity, the college life crimes are likely part of that statistic. And so if you looked at the campus and you go, based on in and around the campus, what is the percentage of that? That would probably be more realistic to judge the percentage of crime. You know what I mean?
The killer knows, and perhaps the police know, and that is where that's going to say for the integrity of this case. The likelihood of
I'm not a fan of the Boulder police. I'm just saying statistically to me, that seems insignificant.
A successful conclusion, which I'm sure you all want as well as all of us, is the integrity of that information, keeping it close, and the police...
If there were 100,000 people and 1%, 1.3% is black, that means there's 1,300 black people. Like 1,300 black people.
Department will continue on that mode throughout the remainder of the case. What I'd like to do now is let the mayor, Leslie Durgan, speak to you a few minutes about the sort of the mood in the community, and she can update you on some of the things that she's been hearing. Leslie?
Thank you.
That's no $19,000 Sarah Huckabee Sanders lectern. I'll tell you what.
Good afternoon. I wanted to talk a little bit about the reaction in Boulder and to answer some of the questions that some of you have asked, and I'm sure...
If I remember, I watched a bunch of these, so I don't remember exactly what it said, but there's something that gets said here that I find to be a real problem.
On the minds of other people. The first is, what is the reaction in the community? And I think that, of course, people are grieving for the situation and recognize that this is a tragedy. But I have been asked frequently, is there widespread fear in Boulder? And the answer is no. And there is certainly no cause for that.
The question is, are people worried about a killer being on the loose? Are they worried about a child predator being on the loose? And the mayor says, not only is there not a concern, what up, Orange? Not only is there not a concern about there being a dangerous predator out there, there is no reason to believe this crime was perpetrated by a predator.
Widespread fear. I want to assure the citizens of Boulder of two things. One of them is that I have complete confidence in the Boulder Police Department.
That didn't age well. I have complete confidence in the Boulder Police Department. Anytime something is spoken in absolutes, it's often propaganda. So I've got full confidence. Okay, it's bullshit. Bullshit. That's a bullshit comment. Plus, here we are 27 years later, and the Boulder cops are a freaking complete embarrassment on this case. Like 100% jokes. So what does that say about you, that you had complete confidence in what turned out to be an absolute farce of a department?
And as we have said before, and I will say again, what we want out of this is not only to determine who the murderer was, but to get a conviction. And that will be the ultimate conclusion, successful conclusion of this case. And so I fully support the police department in doing whatever they need to preserve the integrity of this case so that we can achieve a successful conclusion.
Now, if we are supposed to listen to these press conferences and believe what is told to us by the press conference, you're going to be surprised what we're supposed to think about the Ramseys.
The second question that I have been asked frequently by the media, and frankly only once by a citizen, is whether there is a killer on the loose and do we need to take special precautions in the city. Certainly as parents, and I am one, we make sure that our children are safe, and we do that all the time, and I would expect parents to continue to do that. But I think that people in Boulder have no need to fear that there is someone wandering the streets of Boulder, as has been portrayed by some people, particularly in talk radio, looking for young children to attack. Boulder is safe. It's always been a safe community. It continues to be a safe community.
I mean, the girl was murdered. The girl was murdered. I mean...
And so I want to both assure the citizens of Boulder and really express on behalf of the community our appreciation for the police department, for the very thorough professional job that they are doing in order to bring this case to a successful conclusion.
They did.
Conclusion.
What makes you confident that there's not a killer walking the streets?
What makes you confident there's not a killer out there?
Well, several things that have been released as part of this investigation.
Okay, now remember, this is January 3rd, 1997. The crime happened December 26th of 96. So, what, like 9 days earlier? They just released the crime scene a couple days ago.
Already indicate to me that, and I'm no expert at this, but that there isn't somebody who is just wandering up and down the streets looking for potential victims. Well, they reported, at least, that there were no visible signs of forced entry into the home.
This was determined by 10:30 a.m. on the morning of the finding of the murdered body. While it was a kidnapping, by 10:30, they had determined there was no break-in. So before there was a dead body, they had determined nobody broke into the house.
The home, that it appeared that someone may have known the home well. And so that would indicate to me that there is not just a random act. And I don't think we need to worry about that.
Boulder, you're safe. You're safe. We don't know who did it, but like, you're safe. So if they're saying that there wasn't an intruder and you don't have to be worried about an intruder, then of the two groups it could be, an intruder and the Ramseys, who is she blaming on January 3rd? She's already insinuating nobody broke into the house.
In fact, we never need to worry about that in Boulder, and this case does not change that.
We don't ever need to worry about public safety in Boulder. Now, we spent, an hour going over the ongoing police corruption issues and the non-public safety.
The police have come under a certain amount of criticism. At least other police departments have said they would have handled the investigation very differently. I mean, do you appoint the police chief?
No, the city manager appoints the police chief. The city council.
Can we talk about this lady right here? Meanwhile, I think this is a famous journalist. He looks familiar. But what does she do after she asks this question?
Do you appoint the police chief?
No, the city manager.
What is she doing? What is she doing? What is she doing?
Manager appoints the police chief.
What is that?
The city council appoints 3 staff members in the city of Boulder: the attorney, the city manager, municipal judge. All other employees report to the city manager.
Do you have any concerns, though, in terms of how the police handled the investigation from the beginning? I mean, not searching the house, suggesting to the dad that he searched the house and then he finds the body. Any thoughts on that?
I have no reason to question the police at all.
I have no reason to question the police at all. So I wonder where the information that she's spewing comes from. So nobody broke in. Ignore all the other police departments saying what they would have done differently. This wasn't a break-in, and the cops are always correct.
In their investigation.
Do you have any concerns about the fact that the family flew to Atlanta and supposedly there were no Boulder detectives who went along?
No.
Okay. She asked, do you have an issue with them going to Atlanta? Which JonBenet was buried in Atlanta next to John's older daughter that died before in a car crash. The question was, do you have any concerns about the Ramseys going and about detectives? And so if we're supposed to believe the police and we're supposed to believe the mayor about the police, are we supposed to believe the mayor about the Ramseys too?
I have no concern about that at all. And there was all sorts of, from my point of view, nonsensical speculation that the family would not come back. We know, in fact, that they have returned to Boulder, and I support the police in what they allowed. You know, I think it's important to note that no one has been charged in this case. And the Ramseys, under whatever circumstance, lost their daughter. And I would hope as a carer...
The Ramseys, under whatever circumstance, excuse me, lost their daughter. Also, nobody broke into the house.
...community, without any reason to question at that time that we should allow parents to bury their child.
That's not true. They tried to withhold the body, apparently.
So I think the police made the right choice.
With only one homicide in the city of Boulder, bro.
The police made the right choice of what? Not infringing on their civil liberties?
1996. Is it fair to question the Boulder Police Department's experience?
Is it fair to question Boulder Police Department experience because they don't investigate murders? What's up, Joseph? They don't investigate murders. Is it fair to question them?
I don't think so. Just because...
No, it's not fair to question them at all. I believe the police 100%, and even questioning them is unfair.
You have one homicide in a year, I think, is actually a sign of remarkable strength in a community.
That's not what the question was. The question wasn't about the number of murders in the community and the strength. The question was, is it okay to question the police because they don't investigate murders?
It's something that we had hoped we would not have any homicides, of course, in 1990.
But now that we have one and we don't ever do it, you cannot question us. No, you can't question us because we're beyond reproach.
86.
Have police actually told you there's no need to fear a killer on the loose?
No, I am taking that information.
Oh my God, have the police told you there's no reason to fear? No, I'm just making it up.
Of any homicides, of course, in 1996.
Have police actually told you there's no need to fear a killer on the loose?
Have police actually told you there's no fear about somebody on the loose?
No, I am taking that information, frankly, from a lot of the work that you all have reported in terms.
I'm saying to you there's no fear because of your reporting, not because of facts, but because of what you've said, even though I've also said you guys are spinning tales. This is amazing.
Of what the situation was. I've not talked to the police independently by myself.
Oh, did you hear that? That was an interesting parsing of phrase. I have not talked to the police. No, not by myself. Okay, so somebody else was in the room with you? Is that? All right, I haven't talked to them by myself. She is not answering the questions that are being asked.
I've not talked to the police independently by myself.
Oh, wow.
Investigation was supposed to be wrapped up earlier. Hold up, I can't by myself.
This investigation was
Supposed to be wrapped up earlier. Hold up, I can't hear two of you at once.
The investigation was supposed to be wrapped up earlier in the week. Is there any reason it's gone on this long? Do you know why it's taken them so long to wrap this up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Rumble. Yeah, the face she made was like, oh, shit.
I don't know that a deadline was ever given. And I certainly support the police in doing what is necessary to doing a very thorough job.
Right. 27 years ago, you were sure they were going to get it.
And it takes time, and I think we ought to give them that time and not be rushed by media or people who are...
I get my news from you. I'm telling you about your news, but also don't rush me.
looking for easy answers to complex questions.
Is there any indication the family will not cooperate with the police?
Not that I'm aware of.
Excuse me. If I could, I know you have specific questions of the mayor concerning the community, the calls that the one call, excuse me, that she has received from a citizen. That's fine. She has not been, as I have not been.
Well, then why is she answering the questions? This lady was like, fuck, I'm a comms director, and mayor looks like shit right now because she just said I trust the media, but also I don't trust the media.
On a regular basis by the police
I trust the cops, but I haven't talked to the cops.
department. She is not here to answer questions about the specifics of the case.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
But she is here to say the family did it. Okay, got you.
There has been a complete autopsy done on this girl. Was she or was she not sexually molested?
There's been an autopsy. Was she or was she not sexually molested?
The police are not releasing that information. The autopsy report released by the coroner to the public indicated death by strangulation, that it was classified as a homicide. That is the only information that is officially released at this time.
But you're not denying it either.
I am not confirming.
It hasn't even been a month. It's been like 9 days, 10 days. Yeah. Your property values are safe.
Or denied.
Right now, at this moment, do police know where the Ramseys are specifically, not generally? Are they outside?
Do the police know where specifically the Ramseys are?
A house where they are and know they're inside there?
Police have not sent investigators to track down the Ramseys. They're aware that they flew into Jeffco early this morning.
Do they know if they're even in Corral, Colorado right now?
They have some indication.
Dude, they flew into Jeffco earlier. Are you just assuming they flew out too? They were like, nah, we changed our mind. Abort mission.
They flew into the Jefferson County Airport, which is in Colorado, sometime this morning.
They don't know if they flew on to somewhere else later on today.
They haven't been focusing on that today.
We knew they flew in today. Did they fly out today? We haven't been looking at that.
They are in the process of setting up an appointment with the Ramseys to talk to them. There's no reason to believe they won't cooperate. They've been cooperated throughout.
There's no reason to believe the Ramseys won't cooperate. They have been cooperating throughout. So as of January 3rd, the public statement that we're supposed to believe is that the Ramseys have cooperated, and there's no reason to believe they won't. There was no fear that they weren't going to come back. They've been cooperating.
Are they setting that up directly or through attorneys?
I'm sorry?
Is that through attorneys or is it directly with the Ramseys? Are they talking to them directly?
We will be working, of course, through their attorneys.
Leslie, doesn't it make the investigations all that much more difficult if they don't have, I mean, these are the people with the most information about the crime, if they're not readily available to help police conduct?
Notice how all the questions are about the Ramseys and their behavior.
This investigation, doesn't that cause complications and problems?
No, the police are continuing their investigation. There's a lot of activity. I mean, they're working on the crime scene. As you know, we have people in Atlanta talking to friends and family members. We're not at a standstill.
Everything that I'm going to tell you that the police are doing revolves around the Ramseys. Also, there was no break-in and there's no reason to worry about people in Boulder because, it wasn't a break-in.
Waiting to talk to the Ramseys. Of course, that's a very key part of the investigation. We will be talking with them, and as soon as that appointment can be set up, we will have that happen.
But Leslie, do the police routinely allow key witnesses in a major capital crime, call them and set up an appointment to do interviews whenever?
Do people not charged with a crime have the freedom to not speak to the police? Can't you just force them to talk to you?
They feel like it?
We had no legal right to detain the Ramseys from leaving the state to bury their daughter. There was no legal grounds. They were not under arrest. Nobody has been ruled in or out as suspects. They will be interviewed at a...
Do you hear how the idea still is how suspicious the Ramseys are? That the Ramseys are the linchpin and they're being fishy, and can't you just make them do what you want?
At a time that's appropriate when we can set...
that time? Will they set the appropriate time or will the police set the appropriate time?
We are in contact with their attorney, setting that interview.
Wait, what? Did anybody hear that? I mean, the auto closed caption typed out what I heard.
Appropriate time, or will the police set the appropriate time?
We are in contact with their attorney.
Set the appropriate time, or will the police set the appropriate time?
We are in contact with their attorney.
She did say it. Why would that be a slip in 1997? Why would that name come out of her mouth in a Ramsey press conference?
Will they set the appropriate time, or will the police set the appropriate time?
We are in contact with their attorney.
Who was their attorney at that time? It wasn't Lynn Wood yet. I wish OneSolved was here. Who was their attorney at that time?
We are in contact with their attorney, setting that interview up.
Have any steps been taken?
That sure sounded like Trump to me.
That these people would just get in a car, get in a plane, and just leave. Go to Canada.
Well, can they just be free? Oh my God, this guy's an asshole. This is the same one that was like, can't you just make him do it?
Setting that interview up.
Have any steps been taken to protect against flight? That these people would just get in a car, get in a plane, and just leave. Go to Canada, go to Mexico, go anywhere.
I'm not
This is such an assumption of guilt.
sure what the police have done or not done in this area. To date, there has not been any concern. The Ramseys have been cooperative, and we expect that to continue.
Second time, they've been cooperative.
Yes?
Kidnapping is a crime that's usually handled by the FBI. To what extent is the FBI involved, or if they're not involved, does that mean that they've verified that the body never left the house and that there was really no quote-unquote kidnapping?
The FBI were originally called in because it was called into police as a kidnapping. When the body was found, obviously it was a homicide. Police have been focusing their investigation on that aspect of the case. The FBI has provided some consultancy, sort of on an as-needed basis, but the key investigators are the Boulder Police Department.
We don't investigate homicides, but like if we need your help, we'll let you know.
Any word on handwriting analysis from the ransom note? 3 pages, that's long.
Police have not confirmed the length, the type of ransom note. Handwriting samples have been taken from family and friends. That is being analyzed.
Is there any other crime scene besides the house? Why they waited for 8 hours to search the house?
I'm sorry?
Have either of you been told by the police chief why police waited for 8 hours before initiating, or they didn't even search the house? They had the father search it.
I have complete confidence in the police. Also, can you tell us why the police never actually searched the house?
I'm not aware of the chronology of what went on inside the house.
I don't really know what happened. I have complete confidence, but I also don't know what happened. The media knows, and I get my news from you, but I don't really know what happened. This is cartoonish.
House, Greg?
Actually, 2 questions. One is, maybe I've been watching too much television, but it would seem that when police go to a crime scene and have...
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me read this for you.
Maybe I've been watching too much television.
Maybe I've been watching too much television. But it would seem that when police go to a crime scene and have
potential suspects, and as this woman over here pointed out, close
potential suspects, and as this woman pointed out, close to
the murder and new circumstances.
The murder and new certain circumstances.
Why you wouldn't separate them, sit them down, take a statement from both of them at that point in time. Right?
Why wouldn't the cops ask fucking questions of the parents separately at that time?
Rather than allow them to be together for a week or 2 weeks to presumably concoct a story.
Now, in all reality, They were separated and they were talked to that day. So the report here is that they weren't, but they were. They were separated. They were talked to individually. And he says, but then you gave them 2 to 3 weeks to presumably concoct a story. So we know they did it. Why are you letting them make up a story to lie to us?
That's what they ultimately want to do, and then take a statement from them.
Again, I'm not aware of what went on inside the house from the time they were called to the crime scene till the time the family left that crime scene. What statements or what conversations took place is not something that the police are releasing at this time.
Also, I'm wondering, it appears that the chief has been doing some talking quite extensively to the Denver Post, and I'm wondering why he won't make himself available to the electronic media.
The police chief, including, and then the rest of the staff too, are focusing on this homicide. As you can...
The police chief is leaking information to the Denver Post. Why won't he talk to us? Police is solely focused on the case. That I investigate the case comprehensively, and I can assure you there are no big political donor.
Can all be aware, I think I've told some of you, I've been handling this 15 hours a day. I don't think anyone would want the police to be spending that amount of time in lieu of properly and professionally investigating this case. That is where their emphasis is. That's where they've been spending their time. I'll take one more question.
Back to the forensic analysis of the ransom note.
Back to the forensic analysis of the ransom note.
Is that being done in-house?
Is that being done in-house? Is it being sent out? There's people I've talked to.
Sort of asked the question without knowing any details why that has taken so long, that certain people should probably be either exonerated or implicated by this stage.
The Colorado Bureau of Investigation is helping with the analysis of hair, blood, and handwriting samples. Thus, that is out of house. The Boulder Police Department does have a handwriting person on their staff, but I'm not sure he's specifically handling this case.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that, which is the time frame for that analysis, any information?
I'm not sure when that'll be coming back from CBI.
Leslie, one last question. Can you tell us what percentage of the Boulder Police Department is working on this case?
We have, if I remember correctly, a police staff of approximately 125 sworn officers. We have over 30 officers working on that case, so that's what, 25%? 30?
This is an amazing level. Either the Ramseys are criminal masterminds who have pulled off the perfect murder, or the Boulder Police Department are completely inept. You decide.
30%? I don't have information about the case. That's going to wrap up the remarks that I have. I will let you know that we are not planning any public briefings like this or updates over the weekend. We will let you know if we schedule one on Monday. If there is additional information.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. Now, here is 4 days later. Oops. 4 days later. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Welcome. I see we've doubled or tripled our camera pool. Welcome to all of you from out of town. We've provided a little bit of winter weather for you, but you have some sunshine too. I'm Leslie Ahom. I'm Director of Communication for the City of Boulder. I have a brief update on the Ramsey case, a couple of just sort of housekeeping details at the end. I will entertain some questions, but as I think most of you know, there is not a lot we can say on the case, and that will be the mode that we continue in. The Boulder Police Department continues to actively investigate the Ramsey homicide. Police investigators who were in Georgia and Michigan have all returned to Boulder, and they will be debriefed by case supervisors to determine the next step in the investigation. In both Michigan and Georgia, investigators continued to obtain background information, interview family and friends of the Ramseys, and in Michigan, investigators did execute a search warrant for the Ramseys' home in Charlevoix. That warrant has been sealed by a judge in Michigan. The Boulder police investigators were in Michigan from Friday, January 3rd through Monday, January 6th. Everyone returned and is back in Boulder at this time. Some of you may know that Boulder police were in court this morning requesting that the search warrant for the Ramseys' home in Boulder be sealed. We've just had word that Judge McDonald has sealed that warrant for 30 days. Other procedural updates in the Ramsey case include that the Ramseys' legal counsel have offered to respond to some questions supplied by Boulder police in writing. We cannot confirm at this time if those responses have been forthcoming. Police will not be releasing the questions and answers should that happen. Police have nothing further to add on the issue concerning the formal interviews with the Ramsey family. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation is continuing to supply assistance to the Boulder police concerning lab and forensic evidence. Depending on the type of material they are investigating and the examinations, that analysis can take weeks and in some cases up to months to do. And I know many of you are concerning the formal interviews with the Ramsey family. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation is continuing to supply assistance to the Boulder police concerning lab and forensic evidence. Depending on the type of material they are investigating and the examinations, that analysis can take weeks and in some cases up to months to do, and I know many of you are familiar with that. In any case, the results of those lab tests, when they do come back to the police, will not be released at this time. That will become part of the ongoing investigation and will not be made public until the case goes to court. Many of you have been very helpful in publicizing the voicemail tip line that the police have been using. We've received almost 300 calls on that tip line. Police have assigned staff to monitor and log those calls. Some are opinions, some are...
But are they investigating those calls? I mean, you've already determined there wasn't a break-in. We learned that 4 days earlier from this. So, if 4 days ago there wasn't a break-in, then who are we supposed to believe those tips are about?
Suggestions, some are potentially solid leads, and those that appear useful to police are being followed up upon by the police. As many of you have reported, we are aware that the Ramsey family has hired private investigators. We would just like to point out that private investigators who are looking into this case are entitled to the same information that you are, that the public is. They are private citizens. They're not entitled to anything different than any...
Now, ironically, D.A. Hunter did seem to be working almost in conjunction with some of the Ramsey investigators.
...of you or any of the general public. There have also been some suggestions, or some questions concerning the role of the Boulder District Attorney's Office. They have been providing counsel and legal advice to the Boulder Police Department on the preparation of this case, and they will continue to do so. The FBI continues to provide counsel should Boulder Police need their assistance in this case. Finally, I'd like to let you know that Boulder Police Chief Tom Kobe has indicated he will make a statement to the Boulder community later this week. When we have a specific time confirmed, we will certainly let you know, and therefore all the public. That basically concludes my remarks. Before I take any questions, I would like to just add one sort of housekeeping detail. Despite the attention this has been getting, we actually have a city to run. Tonight is our regular city council meeting. They're held on the formal business photographers in. However, we have made arrangements with Channel 9, the local NBC affiliate, who will serve as a pool camera for the footage tonight. City Manager Honey's remarks will be very brief at the beginning of the meeting, which starts at 6 p.m. Accommodate all of you. Sure.
Are not suspects in the case.
But we certainly appreciate your interest, and I will take a few questions.
Thank you. Thank you. What I asked was, did I miss? Nancy Reagan here said those were going to wrap up her remarks. What did she say? What did she say? Did she say anything? Like, what did she actually say?
You've contended all along that the Ramseys are not suspects in the case.
On some of this, but we certainly appreciate your interest, and I will take a few questions.
You've contended all along that the Ramseys are not suspects in the case. Yet you spent about 10 days at their home here in Boulder.
You contend all along the Ramseys weren't suspects, but you spent 10 days at their home here in Boulder.
You were at their home in
You were at their home in Detroit. You were at their home in Atlanta.
Detroit. You spent several days in Atlanta. Clearly, you have to be suspicious of the Ramseys. Are we just talking about semantic distinctions, or are you still contending they are not suspects in any sense of the word?
We have never contended that anyone is or is not a suspect. We have not ruled any.
We've not said anybody is or is not. Well, what are we doing here?
Anybody in, nor have we ruled anybody out. We are continuing the investigation. Obviously, this.
Well, wait. 4 days ago, the mayor said it wasn't a break-in. It wasn't somebody that just broke into the house. So you've ruled a lot of people out already. Like, as you were advertising the tip line for people.
This crime involved the Ramsey family, so background and family, friends, and homes are being investigated. They have not been ruled out.
But the focus is on them, though, is it not, ma'am?
Question?
It has been said all along the Ramseys were cooperating fully, and yet there was this hope for a face-to-face meeting.
It's been said all along, Ramseys were cooperating.
Now we're talking about notes being passed back and forth. Is it still considered full cooperation at this point, or is it something else now?
We are hoping that the Ramseys continue to support. They have been cooperative to this point. We're pursuing that. We really don't have anything else to add at this time. Yes, sir.
When is the last time the Boulder Police Department let people who were witnesses in something talk to them when they felt like it?
Listen to this question. When's the last time the Boulder police gave witnesses their civil rights? What? What is the press on about? When's the last time people that aren't charged with a crime were given their civil rights?
And if ever, and then let them talk by written statements if they felt like doing it that way?
Police?
Aren't they material witnesses that could be held in jail?
Aren't they material witnesses that can be held in jail? Material witnesses that can be held in jail. What are you talking about, brother?
Or something if they don't cooperate?
They are not under arrest. There is no legal reason to detain them at this time, nor other people. Police will continue to investigate the case and will talk to the Ramseys as appropriate.
How much of the investigation is focusing on John Ramsey's company, Axis Graphics?
I beg your pardon?
How much of the investigation is focusing on Ramsey's company, Axis Graphics?
I don't have any specifics on that.
Now, there's an important thing about this, and even without him here, we're gonna shout out One Solved Mystery, because yesterday's video that he released talked about the Hendersons from Access Graphics. So you should check that out. You should check that out.
So typically in cases like this, there are at least routine bulletins from police along the lines of, if anybody saw anything unusual in the neighborhood at this time, if anybody saw a suspicious vehicle, please let us know. There's been absolutely nothing like that from the police department. Why is that?
Well, that's not quite correct. About a week or so ago, we did put out two numbers, one of which was an 800 number as well as a local Boulder number, which were the Crime Stoppers number. We now have this voicemail tip line, which is 303-441-4310. As I indicated, we've received almost 300 calls on that, so Police are encouraging people to call if they have information that could be helpful.
Leslie, would it be fair to characterize the police department as being frustrated that the Ramseys have not agreed to do a face-to-face sit-down interview?
I don't know that that's necessarily accurate, Greg. The police are continuing their...
So again, the Ramseys are cooperating. They're doing nothing wrong. We're not blaming them. Also, nobody broke into the house.
Investigation as fully as possible. They are hoping for full and continued cooperation. They're working through all of this.
If they don't get cooperation, Leslie, is there come a point in time where they will dictate when the interview will take place?
I don't know that that's in their purview.
That's not quite how our constitutional rights work. Thank you. Next question.
The Ramseys are not under arrest. The interviews are going forward, we hope, and we're working through their attorneys.
At the start of an arrest, are they under any legal obligation to cooperate
No.
with interviews?
I don't believe so.
Leslie?
Yes.
Has the Ramsey lawyers told the police they will not sit down for a face-to-face interrogation?
I do not have that information.
You were talking about lab results and waiting for stuff to come back, but how close are you to an arrest?
There's no timeline we're putting out at this
How
point.
close are you to an arrest? The only person that has ever been mentioned are the Ramseys. And it's all about how come we can't take the rights of the Ramseys away who had their daughter murdered? Are you close to arresting the Ramseys? Do you suspect it was the Ramseys? I mean, every single thing they're doing, even if it's unintentional, is saying the Ramseys did this.
Police don't have specifics
Both
on
the media and the bitch and Nancy Reagan.
that. Obviously, they want to be successful in this case. They are continuing to investigate it professionally. They want they want an outcome that's going to be successful in court. They'll take whatever time they need to see that happens.
Leslie, based on your comments about the DA's involvement and some other comments you made in your statement, it makes it sound like you are anticipating an arrest.
This is normal police procedure. The DA's office works with the Boulder Police Department in the preparation of the case.
I love how on January 7th, 2 weeks after the crime, they're thinking this should be resolved. Here we are 27 plus years later.
So in any case, and they are providing normal assistance in this.
Has the search warrant been asked for or executed?
Do you still consider this a kidnapping since the bargaining chip, the body, was left behind at the scene?
Police have not ruled out the kidnapping aspect of this, but as we have said from the point at which the body was found, they are focusing on this as a homicide investigation.
Has a search warrant been asked for or executed of the business, Access Graphics?
I don't have that information.
How can you say, Leslie, that you don't have any suspects on one hand, and on the other hand say that there is not a killer, a serial killer?
Thank you. Why does it always take minorities to fucking get to the facts? Shout out to the minority.
And on the other hand say that there is not a killer,
How can you say there's no suspects and at the same time say there's not a killer out there? Like, if you're saying there's not a killer out there, you have to believe you know who did it. And to a degree where you're ruling out it was some rando. How can these two things be right at the same time?
serial killer of children out there on the loose? I know you've covered this before, but people out there are afraid.
No, they're not. They haven't told me they're afraid.
We can certainly understand people's concern, their emotional concern and involvement in this case, especially people who were friends and neighbors of the Ramseys. But the police have continued to say that, of course, Boulder is a town of 96,000 people. People should take normal precautions that they took a year ago or a month ago. You don't leave your children unattended. You don't let them sit in the car alone. These are normal precautions. And we certainly would suggest that people continue this. But they don't feel that there is a particular concern that Boulder is any more or less safe than it was a week ago or a month ago.
Why?
Based on what?
Why not?
I don't have anything further to add.
Because they are wholeheartedly convinced it was the Ramseys, but they're not suspects. Also, they're cooperating as much as they have to. But we know it was them to a degree where this is crazy.
On that.
There are reports of a convicted pedophile in the neighborhood. Can you confirm?
I cannot confirm that.
Leslie, is there?
Yes. Yes, you can confirm it. Yes, there was a convicted pedophile in the area. Yes, there were a handful of them.
To add on that.
There are reports of a convicted pedophile in the neighborhood. Can you confirm?
I cannot confirm that.
Leslie, is there confidence on the part
But we know they didn't break in.
of the police department that this will be solved?
The police are confident that they are conducting the most appropriate investigation possible. They want an outcome, as does the public, and as does this community, and obviously as do you, that will be successful. It would be, I think, irresponsible to predict the future. They will continue to do the investigation properly.
No, they won't. They'll continue to fuck it up for 27 years.
It seems that you're taking a high priority. It is not a priority to talk to the parents, and yet you're taking the time of these detectives to send them to their vacation home in Michigan. Why such an interest in this family's vacation home if you don't even seem to want to talk to the parents?
I think that's not quite an accurate portrayal. Police have been working on setting up an interview, a formal interview with the Ramseys, and they will continue to try that. I'm sorry?
Why go to Michigan then?
They are doing background, collecting information, talking with people, and following.
They're literally investigating like every little thing about the Ramseys, but they're not investigating anything else. And when they brought in detectives to investigate and help them, those experts that they brought in told them they were wrong, so they got rid of the experts.
Following through on a thorough investigation.
Hey!
Will the police be questioning the older stepbrother?
I believe they have spoken with him, and I know they have taken blood, hair, and handwriting samples from him at this time.
Spoken to him
Spoken with him.
questioning the older stepbrother?
I believe
the older stepbrother. Who, wait, John Burke or Andrew? John Andrew.
I believe they have spoken with him, and I know they have taken blood, hair, and handwriting samples from him at this time.
Spoken to him in a formal interview, Miranda rights?
I don't have the specific.
Miranda rights. There are no Miranda rights in a formal interview, unless you're a suspect. If police ask me questions, they don't Mirandize me.
Specifics on that.
If the Ramseys do not provide a thorough interview, could that seriously hamper the investigation?
I don't have any information on that, sir.
What a dumb answer. If you don't talk to the people whose house it was, where the child was murdered, will that make it harder? I don't have an answer.
A lot earlier, when there weren't so many people here, you said that the older siblings were out of town at the time of the murder. Can you put a location of where the older siblings were or how far out of town they were?
How far out of town? Yeah, what a reach to implicate the family. Yeah. This is the second press conference we're on. We spent about an hour looking at the ongoing corruption of the Boulder police and the ongoing sex crimes in Boulder. And now this is the second press conference. This is January 7th of 97. We looked at January 3rd of 97 just earlier.
I don't have that. All we said earlier was that the older siblings were out of town at the time of the incident.
Who was at home during the time?
I don't have that information.
Leslie, can you give us a chronology of what happened that night, that morning when the body was found, and previous to that?
We are not releasing, nor have we.
Who's this guy? This is the only dude I trust. That's it, this guy. And she's skeptical. She's skeptical as fuck. But this guy, who's this guy? Who's this? I want to talk to him.
Released any information on the chronology or the events that occurred in the home. The 911 call came into police shortly before 6 a.m. on the morning of December 26th. They responded to a kidnapping call, and then the subsequent events unfolded. We do not have the specifics of what went on in the house. That has not been officially released.
Have the private investigators tried to coordinate with the police in any sense? Have the police afforded them any cooperation at all?
The police, I don't know if they have tried to contact them or not. As I've stated, private investigators are just that, private citizens. They are no more or less entitled to information than are you. And that is the procedure I believe the Boulder Police Department will follow. Last question.
When will you be releasing the contact with 911 case?
When it is no longer needed as part of a tool during the active investigation, if police feel they can release that without jeopardizing their investigation, they will do so at that time. Thank you.
Okay, now, this one's a long one, so bear with me. I don't want to put it on a faster speed because I think it's like, it dilutes what this was like live. But in this one on February 13th, we get to hear, and I haven't watched this, but we get to hear from DA Alex Hunter.
Leslie Ahom, I'm Director of Communication for the City of Boulder. At this morning's news briefing, Boulder District Attorney Alex Hunter...
Yeah, the mayor of Boulder. We saw that earlier. That was the press conference. That was the press conference where she was like, we don't know who did it, but also nobody broke in.
And Chief Tom Kobe will provide...
And this is Nancy Reagan, her comms director.
...some information relating to the Ramsey case in 3 specific areas. Those 3 areas are resource allocation, timing relating to the DNA testing, and finally some general remarks about the timeline of the case. Following their comments, District Attorney Hunter and Chief Kobe will take about 10 minutes of questions relating to those specific...
Oh my God, we got Colby and Hunter. Let's fucking go.
...areas. We'll begin with remarks from District Attorney Alex Hunter.
You know, they should have like WWF walk-up music. It would be better.
This may not be a good sign, but I already need some water.
Leftist audio. No. It wasn't Ahom that said they don't need it. It was the mayor. It was the mayor.
They'll take whatever time they need to see that happens.
Based on your comments,
We want out of this is not only to determine who the murderer was, but to get a conviction. And that will be the ultimate conclusion, successful conclusion of this case. And so I fully support the police department in doing whatever they need to preserve the integrity of this case so that we can achieve a successful conclusion. The second question that I have been asked frequently by the media, and frankly only once by a citizen, is whether there is a killer on the loose and do we need to take special precautions in the city. Certainly as parents, and I am one, we make sure that our children are safe, and we do that all the time, and I would expect parents to continue to do that. But I think that people in Boulder have no need to fear that there is someone wandering the streets of Boulder, has been portrayed by some people, particularly in talk radio, looking for young children to attack. Boulder is safe. It's always been a safe community. It continues to be a safe community. And so I want to both assure the citizens of Boulder and really express on behalf of the community our appreciation for the police department, for the very thorough, professional job that they are doing. Well, several things that have been released as part of this investigation already indicate to me that, and I'm no expert at this, but that there isn't somebody who is just wandering up and down the streets looking for potential victims. Well, they reported, at least, that there were no visible signs of forced entry into the home, that it appeared that someone may have known the home well.
She's later asked, did you hear that from the police? And she says, no, actually, I heard it from you guys. Oh, what a joke.
As I watched the dawn arrive this morning, I was doing my workout, which you don't allow me to do anymore midday. And I had the local morning paper, the two.
That's a weird time to implement a personal gripe. That is weird.
Denver papers to see what had transpired about this case overnight. And it was interesting for me to read in my local paper about what a reporter referred to as botched handwriting analysis or gathering, to peek at the Denver papers and read about what one lawyer referred to in an article as the scorched earth policy that was underway in Boulder in terms of the release of information and secrecy, and specifically with respect to the autopsy reports that we feel should not be released because we feel at this point in the investigation that it would do substantial harm to the public interest. And I thought about the responsibilities that I have, that Chief Kobe has, and frankly, I thought about the responsibilities that you as journalists have. I'm not a journalist, I never have been, but for almost...
Dude, is he literally spending his time for personal gripes and to scold the media?
25 years, I have met with many of you, and we've talked about your responsibility. You've explained things to me that I think have helped me to understand what you have to do and what role the media plays in American society. And in fact, I have to tell you that some of the reporting that I have reviewed has provided insights to me in terms of this case. And that's been true for me over the years. But, you know, as I watched our beautiful morning come in here in Colorado, I also remembered conversations that I've had with many of you individually about what I think is a shared responsibility.
This guy is insufferable.
In this case, and that is to do justice for Joan.
Dude, solve the crime. Solve the crime and you don't have to worry about the media. How about that? Do your fucking job, solve the crime, and don't spend fucking 5 minutes bitching about the media.
And I know that's how many of you feel because you've told me that. And I want to reiterate to you today, and Tom Kobe will speak for himself, but we're on the same page.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Every one of these fucking people are just liars. They're all liars. Every one of them. They're all liars. All of them.
When it comes to that. It is clear to me that these have been difficult times for you guys. I know that your editors push you real hard.
Dude, you are here to talk about the case of JonBenet Ramsey. You are not a media consultant. This is insufferable.
Some of you have told me that. Some of you have told me that you understand exactly where Chief Kobe and I are coming from. And of course, that place is wanting to maintain a special integrity in this case, a case like we have never seen before, a case...
You know what? I wonder if he's speaking directly to somebody he's leaking to. Wow, it sounds like he's speaking in general terms. Maybe this is a direct message, whether it be like a general message, but designed for somebody to hear it.
Have told me that.
Somebody like the dude from the Globe or whatever.
Some of you have told me that you understand exactly where Chief Kobe and I are coming from. And of course, that place is wanting to maintain a special integrity in this case, a case like we have never seen before, a case like I don't think any of you have ever seen before.
And if you want exclusivity to the information that I'm giving out, you better get the fucking line.
Integrity. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we proceed through this dialogue to some extent with you. That means we don't want to prejudice this case. We don't want to see happen to this case what I have seen happen to big cases here in Boulder.
Yeah.
Sam Shepard. Problems
well,
with
the cops and the DA weren't getting they had a problem long before this case. Their problem didn't start with the case. They didn't like the approach that Hunter had to the reduction of recidivism and making people productive members of society. And the cops want convictions and prosecutions, whereas Hunter and what he was elected for had a completely different philosophy.
The Laura Jaquette case in terms of media and problems that you all are aware of as journalists that
Is this the one? I thought when he said, I thought the speech when he said, soon we'll be down to one, I thought it was an outside podium.
Impacted the community, the public interest over time. We don't want that to happen. But we know that keeping it so close to our vest has made your work very difficult, has made it tedious, has frustrated you.
It does sound like he's trying to say, I'll leak to you as long as you stop doing this shit.
It has resulted in part in small leaks becoming big pieces of news that have taken the front page from time to time, and I have to say to you, or given an emphasis, if not on the front page, that probably is not accurate in terms of where we are, where we're going, what we're thinking about. We don't like making your jobs difficult because that probably comes back to get us. You guys have the barrel of ink, we have none. But I know enough of you that I have worked with for a long time to know that
I think I'm right.
We are all...
Of course, that's also confirmation bias, so meh.
Zeroing in on the same thing. That we are looking for the truth, and we are looking to do justice in this case. And that's what Chief Kobe and I are going to continue to do, and we hope that you will understand that when we say things...
I showed a story... What's up, Tail Gunner? I showed a story about 9 years ago, while a rash of like sexual assaults were going on publicly in Boulder, there was a cop who investigates sex crimes that tipped off somebody of an investigation into them sending messages to a honeypot 13-year-old to help him not get caught. And when they did catch the guy, it turned out that he had been talking to a real 13-year-old and had CP.
We're trying to think about what we are going to say.
And I think he had been, it said he was with the Boulder police since 1996.
And its impact on the viability of this case. We've moved to a little different stage, we feel, in this case, this investigation. Things have narrowed for us.
Okay, here you go.
And we think we are now at a point where we can begin to have more conversation with you, but within that framework that I have just mentioned and that I spoke to when we had the press conference in the Globe matters. The challenge for an old prosecutor like me, given the cases that we have watched recently, is to do it right. Not to use tricks. To seek out the best of the best to work on this case, because this is not Tom Kobe and Alex Hunter's case. You know, this is the case of the people of Boulder, the people of Colorado, and certainly without
he's such a politician.
Exaggeration, the people across this country who this case has touched and who call me, and I can tell when they call me that they are full of emotion, that tears are often on their cheeks as they talk about the loss of this child who was really our child. And that is driving us to stay on this path, a path that we hope will have as few mistakes as possible, that will be a path of
This is the worst pastor I've ever seen.
Truth, of high integrity, of meeting the challenge of doing it like it has not been done in a lot of cases that you and I have studied, that we have seen fail, cases that we have seen brought too quickly, including right here in Colorado, too quick a rush to judgment. We're not going to do that.
Nope.
We're going to move forward one day at a time, one
I wish he had a hype man. It would make this easier.
step at a time. We're going to try to be as smart as we are capable of being smart, and we're going to try to draw on the experiences that we have had over our careers and the
where we don't investigate murders.
Experiences that our people have had and bring that to bear. And we're going to tell you about other resources that we have brought into this case, and not today or not yesterday, that have been in the process, being developed, being worked out for some period of time.
Other resources? That sounds like the experts that were then dismissed because they were experts. Oops. My bad.
This case is to us, and how committed we are. And I need to say to you about this case that after a number of years, a quarter of a century, really more than that, if
so this was 97. I think he was elected into office in 77.
If I throw in the time that I was a deputy district attorney trying drunk driving cases, you come to have a feeling in your belly. You feel your instincts sort of rise to a level. It's sort of, it's like being maybe in a zone.
Yeah, Alex Hunter is in flow state. This is so stupid. This is so bad.
That's where he is and where I am. We know where we're headed. We know this case is going to be solved. We know it.
We know it.
And I can think of cases in the past, over the years, where I didn't have that feeling. We're going to solve this case.
These press conferences age like milk.
But we're going to do it our way, and we're willing to pay the consequences of your frustration, and it's not just your frustration. I know how the people, your readers, and your
That's
viewers,
next, I think.
I know how they feel
that's
about
next.
this case. They want swift justice. They want us to move on it. I get these telephone calls at all times of the day and night. Why is this thing taking so fast?
And two of the videos I played earlier, one from like 9 years ago and another from not that long ago, were civilian review of the Boulder police. Like, it's still ongoing now. That's why the guy just got let go for not investigating 50 cases.
Fast. Why haven't you made an arrest? Why aren't you doing this? They'll tell you about commentaries they've read or what they've heard on talk radio about what you ought to be doing. And we try to take those calls and we try to speak to them, because those are the feelings and the conscience of much of our community, which we need to be sensitive to. There was another thing in the paper I read this morning. A professor down at Metro State, a journalism professor, who talked
Metro State.
Talked about, you know, these guys in Boulder are arrogant.
Actually, I was just somewhere with my buddy. I think it's down by Meow Wolf, where I didn't even know Metro State existed, but it's a pretty big school.
These guys in Boulder, they forget that they're accountable to the people of Boulder and the people of Colorado. Well, you know, if I come across as arrogant, I apologize to you for that. I don't feel inside myself that I'm being arrogant.
Most arrogant people don't feel they're being arrogant, but okay.
I feel like I'm being smart.
I'm not arrogant, I'm brilliant. This is too much.
And I think the people that elected me expected me to be smart. And so maybe it comes off as arrogance. And Tom Kobe and I know who we're accountable to. I mean, we don't know everything, but we do know who we're accountable to. So, you know, I appreciate, as I mentioned, those insights that are helpful. I understand those things that are printed that simply need to be printed, that are parts of your job. I have to say to you, I am repulsed at some of the irresponsible press, particularly the tabloid press, that I don't think is helpful. And yet, at the same time, I know that...
Speaking of the tabloid press, David Pecker started testifying today. The owner of AMI, American Media, which owns the National Enquirer.
That's something that's allowed in our society and should be allowed, and it's okay, and I don't go throw up over it. I understand it. So we're going to try to make your jobs a little easier, but within that framework that I spoke to. This is a difficult case. This is a circumstantial evidence case. Those cases take longer. They require more patience. And I hope that for your viewers and for your readers, you will talk about the difference between some kind of eyewitness case and the kind of case that we have.
Your video mocking this and then talking about the eyewitnesses is pretty good.
Dealing with the death of this sweet, innocent, beautiful child. Now, I've had the feeling in recent days that you've got us kind of on a, sort of like a countdown, kind of a countdown atmosphere. And
27 and a half and counting, brother.
You know, that there's a deadline that's kind of fast approaching. I have to reject that and tell you and tell your viewers and readers that we can't be pushed in to that kind of a track or fall prey to that. We've got to proceed in the manner that I've said. And I need to say to you at the same time that I have the same kind of feelings that many of you do. I want this thing to come together quickly and come together in the way it has.
This has been like 12 minutes of just rambling.
To come together for a prosecutor so that I can meet the burden that I must meet, that's the right burden. And so you may have a feeling at some point in time, why aren't there charges yet? We know this, or we read about this, or we speculate about that. Why no charges? The reason is that I'm not going to file anything till I feel I have it.
Yeah. Well, the press is constantly like, why can't you violate the Ramsey's rights?
You know, I share with you that I myself feel the agony of this case.
Oh, come the fuck on,
Every
Grandpa.
time I see a television report, read an article, see a magazine cover with a baby on it. I'd do about anything to have a rapid resolution to this tragedy. but I've got to stay on this path that I have mentioned to you. So I don't want you to have heard me to lecture you at all, because I think, as many of you know, I understand your role.
This is
but
awful.
I'm hoping that maybe the shared responsibility that I think we have to the American public can be captured in more of your treatment of this case. And I hope that you'll be able to let your viewers and readers know that we need to
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking that too, Mulder.
and double check the accuracy of our evidence, of our interviews, of all of the things we are doing. We need to double dot the I's and double cross the T's. And we're doing that, and we're going to continue to do that, and we hope that the public can bear with us, that they will understand that to do it otherwise would not be smart. This may fuel the fire of speculation to some degree. And at the least, it gives the fire more time to burn. And that, I think, is unfortunate, but ultimately, frankly, of little consequence to me. From the beginning of this investigation, I have to say to you that as I have sat with this chief of police on almost a daily basis, that our philosophy
This is insufferable.
has been to concern ourselves only with the way this story ends.
Dude, 1.5, and he barely sounds like he's speaking at a regular pace.
Not with the way the chapters are written. That's how we have been proceeding and will proceed. In the end, a successful prosecution of the murderer of this child is all we want. And I know that most of you out there, that is the result that you want too. Now, to achieve this result, in part, requires more than that Tom Kobe and his people and Alex Hunter and my people, and I might say about my people, when I tell you about the number of years that I've been at it. When I look at my homicide unit, the head guy in that unit has been with me for 23 years.
So?
That homicide unit, made up of 4 people, each of whom is specialized in homicide investigation, have worked together on many, many homicides. The fact that I have been in office so long, maybe too long, has allowed a continuity in terms of this team, if I can call it that, that probably is unlike the continuity that any DA's office can boast. Now, I'm not going to underline the word boast, because I want to make it clear to you and to the people that you communicate to that we are not going to rest on that alone. And I've read about, the composition of this team, and
I'm not sure if you saw my question. Have you ever heard of the White Eagle Underground?
there's sort of a sense of almost a David and Goliath thing. Well, let me tell you what we have put together. And we're telling you this today because it started to leak out. It got out in one of the morning prime shows, and we're trying to treat the media equally. And we knew this leak was underway, and so we felt that we should tell you about this and be able to tell you about the nature of the squad that we are putting together, because we wanted to be able to tell you that primarily first.
Yeah, true. True, Mulder.
We're calling it an expert prosecution task force. I want to tell you that on that task force, and meeting as we speak with one of our investigators, is Henry Lee, who heads up the Connecticut State Police.
Henry Lee is pretty famous. If you have a place I can send you links and stuff, let me know, because I've got something for you. And it intersects with this case and a lot of other stuff I look at dealing with today's underbelly of internet persuasion and darker.
Crime Lab. He is the preeminent crime scene analyst probably in the world, certainly in this country. And we have some biographical information that we are going to give you about Henry Lee. I have been talking with Henry Lee for weeks He meets today, as I mentioned, with one of our investigators to begin the careful process of reviewing crime scene information. And I would, if we had lots of time, I would love to tell you about the cases that Henry Lee has been involved in.
Actually.
Excuse me. And the magic that he has brought to those cases. On this team, our District Attorney Bill Ritter of Denver, Dave Thomas, DA Jeffco, Jim Peters, DA Arapahoe County, Bob Grant, District Attorney, Adams County. These people I have roundtabled with. These people will continue to be roundtabled with as they participate in the development of this case, its strategy, its tactics. They have committed any resources in their offices that we need, and I am in constant touch and have been with these people that have extraordinary skills, which together with the skills of my people, I think, mount a team that I feel particularly proud of. You need to know that I have been in contact with Barry Scheck over the weeks. Many of you know who Barry Scheck is. We've got some information for you on that.
Scheck, yeah, I do.
Professor at Cardozo Law
Actually, I don't.
School, 18 years. One of the finest DNA experts. Sits on the New York Commission that regulates all of the forensic labs in the state of New York. He is a man, I believe, with extremely high integrity, like Henry Lee. And he is serving as a consultant to the chief and his people and to me and my people. He will be working on DNA matters and other matters, including crime.
Is that the guy that started the stun gun thing?
Scene analysis. Now, you need to know that in addition to that, there are other experts that I'm not going to talk about at this time that are doing
He's famous. I don't necessarily mean he's good. I mean he's famous.
Variety of specialty work for us that is common in
famous like Cyril Weck, who I also despise.
Complicated, especially circumstantial evidence cases, and you need to know that we will be seeking, as we have sought, the best of the best. We feel that we can match the resources of anyone in bringing to bear on this case, in our search for the truth, to do justice, the very best that is available.
You failed.
I know there's some speculation about the Capital Crimes Unit, and let me tell you exactly what is going on there, and with some caveats that I hope you will pay special attention to. Yes, I have met with the Capital Crimes Unit. Chief Kobe's people have met with the Capital Crimes Unit. We have been briefed by them.
Why is he angry?
We have been given information, written information from them. We know exactly what they have to offer.
Oh, good.
And of course,
I'm glad to hear it. I hope he gets an autopsy.
The issue is, when does this matter move to a point where the question of capital crime becomes relevant? We are not at that point. But you need to know that at this point, the point that we are at, there are matters and issues and concerns that are relevant to how we do things now that could bear on an ultimate decision to seek the death penalty in this case. Those things are being done. But I have not enlisted.
How can you talk about seeking the death penalty when you don't even know what happened?
Through the protocol of the Attorney General's office, I have not triggered the mechanism that allows all of that to come to pass. But it is true. We have met with them. We will continue to meet with them. They have handled all of the significant capital cases in Colorado. They are very expert. They have their own investigator. They have given us insights that are important, critical, that we didn't have, and they add to that resource pool that we feel this case justifies. Finally, I want to say to you,
there you go,
through you, I want to say something to the person or persons that committed this crime. The person or persons that took this baby from us. I mentioned the list of suspects narrows. Soon there will be no one on the list but you. When that time comes, and as I have said,
you could see these are the first like real bits of super prepared remarks. I think he was making eye contact most of the time, and now he's reading.
Be from us. I mentioned The list of suspects narrows. Soon there will be no one on the list but you. When that time comes, and as I have said to you, that time will come, Chief Kobe and I and our people and the expert prosecution task force and the other resources that we bring together are going to bear down on you. You have stripped us of any mercy that we might have had in the beginning of this investigation. We will see that justice is served in this case and that you pay for what you did, and we have no doubt that that will happen.
Yeah.
You need to know that everyone in America is watching. The death of this child has broken all of our hearts, except apparently yours. It has left a permanent scar on our conscience. There must be accountability. There is going to be accountability in this case. I promise you. That's my job, to make that prosecution happen. And I say to you that there will not be any failure in that regard.
This is embarrassing.
We will ensure that justice is served for this community, for this nation, and most important, for JonBenet. Thank you.
I just feel like he was talking to the Ramseys. Like, I don't think he was speaking to like random outside people, but maybe the random outside people hear it and their confirmation bias says he knows it's us. Did they shake hands? Yeah, okay.
Good morning. I knew I shouldn't have followed Alex, so I will keep my comments brief because we've about run to the end of the time we have allotted for this.
Well, that sounds like a dig.
I don't think I need to reiterate anything that Alex has said to you this morning. I think he said it well. What I would like to do is to touch on a couple things that continue to be issues that get bounced around and speculated on and misinterpreted, and so I think it's time to clear these things up. The first issue, and they are related issues, the first being the processing of our evidence. As you know, we were in the crime scene for many days, approximately 8 days, collecting, gathering evidence.
Yeah, the crime scene that you didn't maintain at the beginning of the crime. Got it.
Much of that evidence is at the crime lab, the Colorado crime lab, being processed. That takes time, a lot of time. Specifically, what has been focused on is the DNA evidence that we have collected. And that has, a lot of that has, that testing at CBI has been completed. But that is not the end of the processing of DNA evidence. The evidence that has been processed, completed at CBI, is being transferred to the Cellmark labs in Maryland for final DNA testing. That process can take up to another 6 weeks or so. So what I would like to emphasize in this forum today is the fact that this case is going to take a while. As Alex pointed out, this is an evidentiary case. We will not be making moves on this case in terms of filing charges, et cetera, until we have completed the processing, the testing of all of the evidence that we have to date. And so we could be looking at several months before we complete this investigation. I think it's important.
Why is he giving a timeline?
For you as media representatives, we know this has been hard on all of you. The time that the out-of-town media has spent in our community away from your homes and families, we know that's been difficult. And so
thank you for the additional revenue to the city.
We want to give you some time frame. We also want to give our community a time frame on this, that as we said from the beginning, we are in this for the long haul.
To win it.
This is not going to be quick. And so to prepare our community for that ongoing process that has to take place in order to bring this to success.
So a month ago, the mayor assures us there's nobody on the loose. You tell us we still have no idea.
Resolution. Lastly, I would like to say to this community, the Boulder community, Alex touched on it, but I want to re-emphasize it. This community has been extraordinarily supportive of this police department. We have gotten hundreds and thousands of responses from the Boulder community in support of our approach to handling this case. And so the test that Alex talked about in terms of meeting the measure of the expectation of the people we are responsible to, we feel has been met and exceeded the expectations of this community. And then I would also like to say to my people, the members of the Boulder Police Department, the member of the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, that in the face of this most difficult situation, as Alex pointed out, there are none bigger than this that have gotten this kind of scrutiny. That you have stood the test and you have responded professionally. You are true professionals in the genuine sense of that word.
Sprinkles.
And I think you could hear it in Alex's voice, and I think for those of you who know me, know that when I say this, I mean this. I truly love the people in my organization and what they have been able to produce and what they have been able to withstand. So with that, I think it's important to allow you the time to ask your questions. And
is he hitting puberty?
Important to allow you the time to ask your questions. And I will ask Alex to join me and Leslie to join me at the podium so we can deal with some of the issues you have.
As we said at the outset, we will take some questions relating to the remarks today. We're not reopening the case here, so we will go ahead and...
I have a question for Mr. Hunter,
yes, sir.
If I may. You said the case is narrowing. Can you say whether the suspect list is narrowing? And if so, the evidence you've gathered so far, does it point to any one person or person?
I'm only going to say again that it is narrowing. But in fairness to you, you need to know that in order to do this job the right way, we begin with an extraordinary large pool. We've got to take that all to ground. And
a large pool of the family.
What I meant by that is that that large pool is being narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And I'm not going to get into whether there's 10 people or 100. It's narrowed. We feel momentum. We feel that progress, significant progress is being made. But I don't want to say more than that because I feel that it would be misleading and so on. I think that, yes.
Quick follow-up. Why are you so certain that you will find whoever did this? Can you give us something on that?
You're just going to have to bank on some rather subjective things that I talked about. Tom and I have talked about it. It's the way things are progressing and developing.
I was just being full of shit and delivering a speech.
But it's how things fit together, pieces that are starting to get into place. And a lot of it has to do with our gut feeling. And by
You gotta be kidding me. This passed for fucking... Holy shit.
By that I mean more than Douglas's comment that he could feel it in his heart. I'm talking about something that is different than that, but that is based on a tremendously long combined period of working with homicide cases and looking at different factual situations.
The source of Trust Me Bro. What I always want from my district attorneys, the Trust Me Bro source.
But I don't want to be more specific than that.
Mr. Attorney Hunter, you said in your remarks that it was incorrect to characterize your struggle to solve this crime as David versus Goliath. You said you're not as weak as David. You've got a strong team. Who's Goliath, and why would you use that analogy?
Who's Goliath? In David and Goliath. Who's Goliath? Okay. So you mean when you say metaphorically, who's Goliath? Okay.
There have been remarks that have been made by the media about different lawyers and when the Simpson case took place. They had resources that might not be available to Boulder. And what I'm saying to you is that in reading the general media treatment of this case, I have had the sense that some of you have inferred, if not said directly, that, you know, the Boulder Police Department, only 200 people strong, compared to the LAPD of 5,000, 10,000 strong. The Boulder DA's office with 22 lawyers compared to the LA DA's office of 1,000.
Yeah.
Or, you know, these defense lawyers and that. And I felt, in fairness to the public, that they should hear the prosecutor in Boulder say, here's what I feel about my own team, but this is a big enough case, and we're able to put hopefully be humble about our experiences.
Dude, this dude is so full of shit.
To draw in some of the best DAs, certainly in this state and in the nation, to assist us, to brainstorm with us, to roundtable with us, and to go and get the best crime scene guy we could find. That's what I meant.
So you're not, if I can follow, you've explained once again why it's unfair to call your investigatory team a small and incompetent like David.
I don't think there was any use of the word incompetent.
Who is Goliath? Who is your opposition? If I could be more specific, is the
obviously there is no formal opposition, and I think I have spoken sufficiently to your question.
There's no formal opposition. I'm fighting ghosts. I just want you to feel bad for me.
In giving you, I think, some rather specific examples of what I've picked out of the press as a suggestion of not being able to match the Goliath.
Mr. Hunter, obviously this has become a DNA case. Can you tell us if the DNA evidence to date is completely ambiguous, or has it helped you to narrow down that?
Dude, the fashion. Of course, you can't really, this guy looks like a redhead, so without a soul, I don't know what I would expect.
List of suspects, as you refer to it.
Next question.
Mr. Hunter, completely ambiguous, or has it helped you to narrow down DNA evidence to date is completely ambiguous, or has it helped you to narrow down that list of suspects as you refer to it?
Next question.
Mr. Hunter,
crossing inside or outside of the Ramsey family?
Excuse me, we couldn't. I didn't get the first part of that question.
Is your investigation focusing inside the Ramsey family or outside the Ramsey family as far as suspects?
Next question.
there's a valid reason to have moved on from that one. Because if they're looking in the home, they don't want to say that. And if they're looking outside, they don't want to say that. They don't, that I'm okay with that answer.
Given the timeline you're talking about.
In your roundtable discussion, you said a number of weeks ago that you were doing this case just right when you were talked to about possible outside experts, nationally known experts. We were talking about the Ramsey family's team. At this point, what made you change your mind to go and talk to national experts? And this is somewhat unprecedented as well in a local murder case.
I'm not sure when you and I talked about this issue, but and I don't think we talked about this issue.
Fake news. Fake news.
This issue, but and I don't think we talked about this issue. I think it should be pretty clear that Alex and I have been conferring for the last 50-some odd days with experts all over the country. The district attorney is tied into a network of his peers, both on the prosecutorial side and also the defense side. I have my peers.
These people sound like they've been sedated.
In the policing side of things, the enforcing side of things all over the country. And we have been in constant conversation with experts on this case. And so I think that the point of your question that is well made is that this is unprecedented in terms of a local case. But I think what we all realize in this case, and it relates to why are we devoting so much energy to this investigation, I don't think anyone in the room would contest the fact that this case has taken on something of its own and that it is going to shape things. We realize that it is going.
Wait, when Steve Thomas complained that he advised they moved faster, they told him it was political. I don't remember who Steve Thomas is.
Going to shape things in our profession, in our specific departments in terms of policy, procedures. It's going to shape things beyond our departments into the future. And I would suggest to you that as well, it has the capacity to shape your business in terms of your coverage of this event, the accuracy or lack thereof of accuracy in what you have reported. And so I think all of us, Alex spoke to this earlier, have got to come to terms with the fact that this is something significant. We have come to terms with it. This is something significant that we need to make sure when we get to the end of this thing, that the impact that it has on our profession and the resolution of this case is done in an excellent manner and has the outcome that needs to occur. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I got a question for Mr. Hunter. When you announced the expert prosecution task force, you said that you were putting this team because you wanted to match the resources of anyone to do justice. What am I supposed to make of the anyone? Is the person who is likely to be charged here somebody who's going to have great access to the same type of DNA experts? Do they have a lot of money?
You know, I think, the question is loaded, and that's okay.
I'm using the words you just said a few minutes ago. Can you tell me what that means? That's a loaded question. Oh, I hate this.
That's your job, okay? I don't care who ultimately I come down on. But I'm going to be ready to match the resources of anyone, because I think the case deserves that. So hear me just to put it simply that way. This case, as I probably spent too much time discussing, but I know you agree with me, deserves that we do the very best we can. Bring in the.
They've not said anything in 40 minutes.
bring in the best people, and that's what we're going to do.
We have a question right here. Excuse me, right here.
Ramsey family.
Excuse
What
me,
are your
sir,
thoughts on that?
we're taking this
Mr. Hunter,
question right
if I may.
here.
You made one comment where you said that the killer has stripped you of any mercy you may have had for him or her or them that you may have had at the beginning of the case. What is it as you've gone along that has stripped that mercy? What have you discovered that brought you that?
Well, what I was saying is that, you know, the days have gone by, 50 some odd days. The pain that everyone feels about this loss, anybody that was worth anything, that had any kind of soul, any kind of heart, I think would have stood up. And the failure to do that, to stand up and come forward, the failure to do that has stripped me of mercy that I might have had in the beginning.
Mr. Hunter, you said that you weren't going to proceed with any charges until you had enough evidence. What is enough evidence?
That's true.
Well, the rules are pretty clear. It has to be evidence that provides something that gives us a quantum beyond probable cause, that makes me believe under the rules that I can prove this case to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt.
And we know years later or whatever, they did present this, at least he presented his version of evidence, and they said, we could indict, but there's no way you would convict.
That is why the chief said to you, we are going to move along, we are going to do our work, we are going to do it patiently and thoughtfully and completely, and when we get it all done, we are going to analyze it and see if it reaches that quantum.
The Ramseys, it appears that they're moving out of town. Does that affect the case at all if they are?
That's not a question related to the topic. The gentleman from ABC.
You said earlier on, obviously you've been consulting with people from the beginning, and yet some of these names have just emerged recently. One, why did it take this amount of time to reach these certain people, to talk to Barry Scheck, to talk to some of the other gentlemen involved? And secondly, is any of this in any way directly related to the Ramsey team? People have called theirs from quite early on a dream team, that if there's any prosecution of anyone connected to this family, it's going to take a dream team to fight back. It looks from outside like that's exactly what you're putting together. Can you respond to that, please?
Well, I just say to you that as I think back over the homicides that we have had,
I hate how he says that,
in this county over my years, that we have sought experts, often outside of the state, even in sex assault cases, something less than murder. We bring experts in from out of state. We pick up the phone. We call DAs that have had similar cases. Early on in this case, I talked to the prosecutors in some of the really high-profile cases that you know about recently. This would be done in any event, I would hope, by any district attorney anywhere in the country. So it's not, as you suggest, sort of a matching. But I think it is important for the people in this community, in this nation, to know that we are going to bring the best to this case. I think we do that in all of our cases.
We'll take two questions, Vicki and then John.
Chief, can I ask you a question?
Excuse me, Vicki first.
Chief Colby, based on the timeline, do you feel like the media or outside forces in general have placed your job on the line based on the successful resolution of this case?
Next question.
John?
Next question.
Mrs. Ramsey can come down to the Sheriff's Department and complain about the media. Why can't you come down to the Police Department and talk to y'all?
I think that concludes the news conference.
No fucking way.
Mrs. Ramsey can come down to the sheriff's department and complain about the media. Why can't you come down to the police department and talk to y'all?
I think that concludes the news conference.
What about cooperation from the Ramsey family?
Excuse me. Let me answer the question that follows that question. Why won't you answer the question? I was raised as a chief under the tutelage of Lee P. Brown, who was the chief in Atlanta, Houston, commissioner in New York, drug czar, currently a professor at Rice University in Houston. And Lee taught me three things about media management. One of them was, first thing he taught me was, don't answer stupid questions. Professional media people should ask you good questions. And you don't have an obligation to reach down to the level of response to a dumb question. The second thing is, don't answer questions that lead to speculation. Many careers and lives have been ruined by media speculation. And you have an obligation, I have an obligation, not to contribute to that phenomenon. And thirdly, what Lee taught me was, don't answer questions that
Did he have this written down?
Compromise your objective, particularly in a criminal case. And so when we have questions that we don't respond to, what I am processing are those three criteria that Lee Brown drilled into me long and hard over the years that I worked with him. I will leave it to you to decide which of those three that question falls in, three categories that question falls in.
Thank you.
That was a super long response to arrogantly say, I'm not going to answer your question.
I'd like to add, thank you all for coming. We are going to begin with this as the first of a series of weekly briefings or weekly briefings. The next one will be a week from today, Thursday at 10 a.m.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Mostly they will be
we'll move on to
provided
the
by
last
the
one.
public information staff. If there is a high-level announcement or significant change in the case, the chief, the district attorney, or an appropriate member of the law enforcement community will be there. Otherwise, they will be normal updates, and it will be a member of the PIO staff. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you. You want me to
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we got to hear that because it was good to hear how insufferable those people are. Okay. All right. Last one. March 6th. I'm so hungry.
Well, why don't we jump into it and get started? We have about 6 items this morning to go over with you. The first item, item 1, regarding DNA testing. Various items have been sent to Cellmark Diagnostics in Maryland for DNA testing. The items were delivered on
Is that this guy's name, Kelvin?
Tuesday of this week. The testing by Cellmark could take up to 6 weeks for results. In addition, we have a statement from Cellmark which will be distributed at the end of this briefing. Item 2, handwriting samples. Boulder police are in receipt of a third set of handwriting samples from Miss Patricia Ramsey. These items were collected by Boulder police on Friday, February 28th. Police had difficulty obtaining satisfactory samples because Miss Ramsey is reported to have been taking medication since December 26.
That's a HIPAA violation.
Item 3. Based on the information
I don't know if they had HIPAA back then.
Police have to date, Boulder police are now able to eliminate John Andrew and Melinda Ramsey as potential suspects. Boulder detectives traveled to Roswell, Georgia back in February for the express purpose of collecting conclusive evidence that would allow us to eliminate John Andrew and Melinda from
What was the evidence you collected? Because you didn't need to go there for their alibi. So are you saying it's the DNA that excludes them? Because if it is, that's fucked.
In this case. Upon arrival, we were informed that John B. Ramsey had retained attorney James Jenkins in Atlanta to represent Lucinda Johnson, Melinda, and John Andrew. Mr. Jenkins declined to allow his clients to speak with us. As a result, alternatives...
The people that weren't in the state refused to speak to us about what they were doing in the state.
Sources of information had to be developed, which delayed our ability to publicly issue this information. John Andrew and Melinda are being publicly cleared of the...
Their lack of cooperation with our witch hunt delayed our ability to eliminate them as suspects. This is really gross. This is really gross. Like, they're literally insinuating there's something skeptical about the people they eliminated.
Involvement in this case to relieve them.
He literally could have just said, we've been able to eliminate them.
Stress caused by inappropriate speculation. Item 4, results of internal affairs review. The Boulder Police internal investigation.
We're the police. We looked at ourselves, and it seems like everything we're doing is perfect.
Process, which was initiated to examine a concern that Detective Sergeant Larry Mason was involved in an unauthorized release of information, has been concluded. The process has determined this concern to be unfounded.
No, yeah, we looked. He didn't do that shit. He didn't do it. No, we looked. No, I know. No, we don't have any paperwork on our investigation, but we did thoroughly look at it. And we determined we were fine.
Item 5, an update on costs for you. The Boulder Police Department current expenditure.
This is interesting. I did hear this part. I want you to think about, okay, when you run a business, your cost of your employees should be like, in a lot of businesses, even a lot of service industries, your costs on employees should be well under 50%. In a business like mine, it's supposed to be about 20%.
Item 5, an update on costs for you. The Boulder Police Department current expenditures to date total, and bear with me so I can get the number right, $89,273.03.
89,000. So let's call it 90 grand.
Cents. This figure includes overtime expenses through February 23rd, but does not include any travel expenses for the month of February. Incidentally, the overtime expenses for 1997 title, again, in a long number, 50,100.
So the overtime expenses of the 90,000 is what?
Expenses for 1997 title, again, in a long number, 50,000.
So 50% of what they spent on the case would be 45 grand. So a majority of the money spent on this case has gone directly into the pockets of the people that failed to solve the case.
$170.36. This information is contained in the packet that we have for distribution at the end of our news conference. Sir, you need to stay off the stage, please. Thank you. Okay, item 6 is a logistical issue. On Tuesday, March 11th, at 1:30 p.m., there will be a meeting with members of the media. The purpose of this meeting will be to discuss and hear from the media regarding long-term logistical issues concerning the case, such as parking and credentials. This meeting will be held at the University of Colorado Coors Event Center, and we will have a handout on that item as well. Again, this is the logistical meeting on Tuesday, March 11th at 1:30 p.m. Anyone need a read back on any of those previous 6 items? If not, John Soderman, you have the first question.
Dude, that's the entire brief of here's what you guys need to know this week.
Is it true that the Ramseys are investigating Boulder police?
Is it true the Ramseys are investigating Boulder police? And this is where OneSolve says he pulls out a prepared statement. Weird that it was the very first question, though, huh? I think if they ever find the truth that the family was innocent, they should all lose their pension. You know, the interesting part, though, is, has Ramsey ever sued them for defamation? The cops.
Is it true that the Ramseys are investigating Boulder police?
Now, to be fair, the people that do the president's briefings come out with binders, too.
If indeed people are looking into the background of employees of the Boulder Police Department, that would be entirely irrelevant to this investigation.
We already did our own investigation internally. We thought there was enough of a reason to actually do an investigation, and we figured out it was fine. So if anybody else wants to do an investigation, that's irrelevant. Well, that's my point, is he would be able to prove they defamed him without proof.
As Police Chief Kobe has said many times, Boulder Police will not be distracted by outside issues.
Yes, sir. Is it yes or no? Are they or aren't they?
I don't know specifically if they are.
I cannot confirm nor deny, but if they are doing it, it doesn't matter. Trust me, bro.
If this is occurring, it's entirely irrelevant to this investigation. Specifically if they are, but if this is occurring, it's entirely.
Okay, wait. There's a facial thing that goes on that could mean something and it could mean absolutely nothing. But we know this was a prepared statement. We know this was something he knew he was going to get a question on. But there is a snarl. Okay? A snarl. Like when you're mad at something and you're just like this, you know what I mean? You know, the one side goes up, you're fucking mad.
But if this is occurring, it's
entirely. Maybe it's just the word entirely. I don't know. Entirely. I don't know. My face doesn't make that fucking snarl.
But if this is occurring, it's entirely. But if this is occurring, it's entirely.
You see it? It could be nothing, or this question could have pissed him off.
Entirely irrelevant to this investigation.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at the conclusions of JonBenet's autopsy and knowing that child abuse just never happened in a vacuum, can you categorically say that there has never been a past report of child abuse from the Ramsey home?
Okay, your question puts me in an awkward position because some of the things that you said in your question are not accurate, so do you want to rephrase it?
Has Boulder Department of, I'm sorry, I don't know what you call it here, Social Services, has Boulder's Department of Social Services ever received a past report of child abuse at the Ramsey home?
Okay. I know you're from out of state, so maybe I should explain a little bit. The city...
That was condescending. That was I know you're not from here, so let me explain it to you. And this guy looks wasted.
Abuse at the Ramsey home.
Okay. I know you're from out of state, so maybe I should explain a little bit. The city is a separate jurisdiction from the county of Boulder. The Child Protection Division of Boulder County is not part of the city of Boulder, so it would be inappropriate for me to speak for that agency.
Do you know if there was a fucking complaint about child abuse on these people? Like, why are you parsing this?
Past child abuse at the Ramsey home.
Okay, I don't understand the question specifically.
I don't understand the question. Has there been a past report about child abuse? I don't understand the question. But you're from out of town, so that's probably why.
Shut the fuck up. You don't say a fucking word. You know what you do? You shut the fuck up.
The Ramsey home.
Okay, I don't understand the question specifically.
I don't have to answer that. I don't have to answer that. This guy's not very good at comms.
Okay, I don't understand the question.
I don't understand your question. Nope, those are incongruent. Those are completely incongruent. This is wild.
Specifically, so let's try it again.
Okay. Since the Ramseys moved here from out of state, has any official law enforcement agency, any child protective service agency in this state gotten a report of suspected child abuse at their...
What do you mean by child abuse?
Okay, I'm not going to respond to that question. Next question, please.
Yo!
Categorically deny it?
Asked and answered. Next question, please. Question.
I'm not going to answer your question. Do you deny it? Asked and answered. English, do you speak it, motherfucker? This is outrageous.
Okay, I'm not going to respond to that question. Next question, please.
Can you categorically deny it?
Asked and answered. Next question, please.
Was this his last press conference? Please tell me this was his last. Holy fuck. Oh.
Charles.
What's the status, Kelvin, of the interview with the Ramseys?
A formal police interview with the parents of the victim has not been scheduled. I want to note that the lack of a formal interview with the parents of the victim has not slowed the investigation, which is active and ongoing. Yes, sir.
What can you say about their demand that they be interviewed jointly?
What I can tell you is that, as we have articulated since the beginning of this case, we have a way that we conduct formal police interviews. Those items in our...
This guy is way more polished on how to tell the media to shut the fuck up. Was he brought in because they just destroyed the earlier press conferences?
And the way we conduct formal interviews include that the parties be interviewed separately, that the interviews be conducted by Boulder police detectives at a time and a location conducive to a productive interview, that the interviews be video and or audio tape, and that the persons being interviewed may be represented by legal counsel and police officers advised them of their legal rights, including their right not to talk to police and their right to exercise that right at any time. And finally, the fifth item that we add in any police formal interview, Charles, is that only the individual being interviewed, their legal counsel, and police be present in the room during the interview. Yes, ma'am.
Is District Attorney Alex Hunter any closer to hiring the private investigator?
There have been ongoing discussions with a number of possible candidates, and retired Deputy Chief Tom Haney, most recently of the Denver Police Department, is one of those candidates. To answer your question probably more specifically. Did you have a follow-up?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You said that you guys released John, Andrew, and Melinda, or you released them off of the suspect list because of stress. Is anyone else due that courtesy?
That is the only announcement we have of that type today.
So no one else is released off the suspect
Bill?
list?
Why, for 10 weeks you guys have said that nobody will be publicly excluded as suspects, and today you have said that John, Andrew, and Melinda...
Oh, this dude in the suspenders is killing it. I fuck with that.
...will not be considered suspects. Why the change? Why suddenly have you decided we're going to name people specifically?
What we have said previously is that we are not going to get into a position where we are going to identify anyone as a possible suspect. What we have...
Wow.
...have said, Phil, is that regarding suspects, is that we are going to identify a suspect when an arrest warrant is issued. We are not going to attempt to identify a suspect prior to that, Phil. We have been able to, at this point, eliminate, in this very specific situation, John, Andrew, and Melinda from suspicion in this case. Did you have a follow-up, Bill?
Well, I guess the question would be, you guys have, when we brought other names to the table in the past, the answer has been, we're not publicly discussing whether or not people are suspects. Today you have said, we've decided we're not going to say these people are suspects. Why can't you do that with other people in the case?
Well, as you recall, on December 30th, we put out a statement that said that the adult siblings were out of town at the time of the incident. This is in follow-up to that statement that we issued on December 30th. We have not issued any other statements such as that. So,
well, then how come every time we asked you, you couldn't just remind us or say, yeah, we've eliminated?
It's incredibly consistent in our view that to follow up on a previous public statement.
You began with that. In clearing them, John, Andrew, and Melinda, you say they're out of town.
Yeah,
Can you give us
interesting.
specifics to where they were and why they are cleared?
No, I cannot. Carol?
As far as Patsy Ramsey and the handwriting samples, you said she was incoherent the 26th. Which day?
I will read you item 2 again. Boulder Police Sergeant received...
She didn't say incoherent. It said unable to attain an acceptable sample because she was on drugs.
A third set of handwriting samples from Miss Patricia Ramsey. These items were collected by Boulder Police on Friday, February 28th. Police had difficulty obtaining satisfactory samples because Miss...
They didn't not get a sample. They didn't like the samples they got. And they're saying it's because she was on drugs.
Ramsey is reported to have been taking medication since December 26th.
So the reason you asked for a third was because what she wrote down might not have been what her normal handwriting is, because maybe she was under medication.
Well, I understand what you're saying. What I can tell you is that we, prior to this third set, have been unable to obtain a sample that's been satisfactory.
Because she was on drugs. It's not just that it wasn't satisfactory. It's that it wasn't satisfactory because she was on drugs.
Thanks.
I'm going to try again. Since the death of JonBenet Ramsey, can you tell us whether or not the Department of Social Services here has visited the Ramsey home to determine the condition of the other minor child that's still there?
Concerning Burke Ramsey, there's...
Well, technically, they weren't at the house.
No indication that he is in imminent danger. Did you have a...
You know what? I never really thought about it this way, but Boulder police prove they didn't really ever consider the Ramsey suspects. No, seriously, they proved that they weren't serious about the idea that the Ramseys did this crime. Because if the Ramseys did this crime, Burke needs to be removed from the parents. And CPS, they don't fuck around if they think there's a problem. Trust me, I know. Like, they don't fuck around. So if CPS never had a legit case on this, and that there was never even like a temporary concern to get Burke out of there, they never really thought the parents did it. If they believe the parents did it, Burke is in imminent danger. There's a lot of required reporters in this area.
Follow?
Yes. Did they visit the Ramsey home?
My understanding is that the Boulder County Department of Social Services Child Protection Division has been consulted and were consulted early on in the investigation. John?
Kelvin, I know we ask this question every week, but if the Ramseys are investigating Boulder police, is it fair to say that they're obstructing justice?
That they're...
Wait, how would investigating the police be obstructing justice? What is going on? Our media is retarded. Why can't you just hold them hostage and make them speak to you? Is the question earlier.
What? Is it fair to say that the Ramseys are now an obstruction of justice in this case?
What I can tell you, John, is that these outside issues are not being allowed to distract the Boulder Police Department. Did you want to follow that?
No.
Yes, sir.
Is there as much confidence today as there was a few weeks ago that in fact there is going to be an arrest made or more than one arrest?
This investigation is moving forward. It's on schedule. We're getting the work
On
done.
schedule.
Roz?
Is the third handwriting sample satisfactory?
We have not requested any additional samples as of yet. Yes?
Was Patsy Ramsey on any medication at the time of the 28th?
I don't know.
This is atrocious. It's Fox News. They ask dumb questions.
Just to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
You said you had trouble getting a handwriting sample because she reportedly had been on medication since December 26th. Whose reports? Do Boulder police say she was on medications? Do the family say she was on medications? Who says she was on medications?
Yeah, exactly.
December 26th. And as a follow-up, do you know what kind of medications they are?
Let me take the first part of your question, if I could. I can't be more specific on medication because of certain privileges that are still relevant in this situation. And the second part of your question, please?
Well, actually, you answered the second part. The first part is, whose reports? I mean, who, according to whom she's been on?
Okay.
You characterize this reportedly. What's that mean, reportedly?
Sure. I think the question answers both, so I'm going to move to the next question. Yes, sir.
And then is the implication of your statement that she is no longer on medication as of the 28th?
I don't mean to imply anything about the medical services being provided, Mrs. Ramsey.
Yeah, so if this one doesn't match, she was on drugs again. Got it.
Kelvin, are Bill McReynolds and Janet McReynolds considered serious suspects?
I beg your pardon?
Bill McReynolds, Santa, and his wife Janet, are they considered?
Are they considered? She sounds like national media. She sounds like, are they considered actual suspects?
Serious suspects? Bill McReynolds, Santa, and his wife Janet, are they considered serious suspects at this time?
What I can tell you is that generally Boulder police are not in a position to discuss who has specifically or who has not specifically provided non-testimonial evidence such as hair and blood, and we have not publicly identified anyone as a serious suspect or as a non-serious suspect, nor have we attempted to rank any potential list of suspects. So that's the best answer I can offer you. John?
Kelvin, there was a media report last week that some of the local airports...
Yeah, that's how they work. That, like, I started watching White House briefings when Trump got in office, but from then till now, every time I watch them, it's just like, how do we politic and spin to not answer anything and say what we want?
On standby because Mr. Ramsey's a pilot. Is there any concern that
Ramsey, I don't think, is a pilot. If Ramsey was a pilot, why does he have a pilot?
the Ramseys might try to leave the area?
The Boulder Police Department, as you're aware, has no legal authority to place restriction of movement on the Ramsey family. Ideally, we hope to maintain ongoing contact with the family of the victim as this investigation proceeds. Specifically on are we conducting surveillances? If we were conducting surveillances, it would be inappropriate to discuss.
No,
Charlie.
That's true. That's fair. That is fair. That's actually a fair answer. If we were surveilling him, it would be counterproductive to tell you that.
The team they are assembling is for the purposes of conducting their own investigation into the homicide. Has their investigation been of any help to the Boulder investigation?
I am unaware of any active or frequent conversations or communication with any outside investigators in this case. Let me assure you, Charlie, that the Boulder Police Department is the lead investigating agency in this case, and it's very comfortable with that role.
Private airline tour. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wondering, there's some speculation as to whether the homicide was premeditated or intentional. I was wondering if the Boulder police could comment on
No way.
what type of charges would be pressed and when an arrest is made.
No.
Well, you indicated from your very question that your question was one of speculation. We don't engage in speculation. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Has there been any movement in the investigation of the Shreveport letter?
The author of the letter that was postmarked in Shreveport has not been positively identified.
What Shreveport letter? What is he talking about? What is that? What is that?
Any movement in the investigation of the Shreveport letter?
The author of the letter that was postmarked in Shreveport has not been positively identified.
What is that?
Dan.
You were interested in relieving John Andrew and Melinda of the stress caused by inappropriate speculation. I'd like to follow up on Phil's question. Mr. and Mrs. McReynolds are elderly. They're getting hammered by people in the media. Don't you think that they might deserve to be relieved of some stress?
Nice. Well said.
As well, if they are indeed not suspects?
Well, certainly you and the media can choose to cover or not cover whoever you think you want to cover. That's entirely up to you all.
Look into
the
Patsy.
Police Department has not engaged in this speculation game. One of the things that we have been able to do, specifically regarding John Andrew and Melinda, is...
Has that letter ever come out or been identified as anything?
Sort through information, follow up on a previously issued public statement. That is what we've done today, Dan. Want to follow? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Would you discuss what kind of materials were sent to
Is that Shreveport, Louisiana?
Cellmark, and what sorts of testing is being done there on the materials?
You want to go ahead and give me your follow-up because I'm not going to discuss that.
That was my
Okay,
question.
no, we're not going to. Harry?
How were the materials transported to Cellmark?
Sorry?
How were they transported? Were they taken by a person? Were they sent courier? Were they...
They were physically transported.
So someone from the department?
That's correct.
Took them there? Okay.
Charles?
How about polygraphs? What's the status on the request that the Ramseys be polygraphed?
You are aware in...
We can't get an interview from him. You want to know about a polygraph?
And I can find the press release. I don't remember what number it is.
I mean, if there's a ring of pedophiles, it'd be pretty easy to get somebody in Louisiana to send that letter.
But the Boulder Police Department has not requested a polygraph examination in this case. And I don't have that item immediately in front of me, but we have not requested any polygraphs in this case. Kathy?
Are you requesting any further samples from John Ramsey or any additional samples from Patsy?
I don't have a specific response to that, I'm sorry. Carol?
Did the CBI give you all of their information and their conclusions from what they got from all of that all those?
As you know, we're not discussing the results of testing as they are returned to Boulder Police. So my understanding is that the Colorado Bureau of Investigation has completed its work. Now we're at the phase where Cellmark Diagnostics in Maryland will conduct its testing.
So they gave you some kind of indication of what they found?
That was a step in the process, was for the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to complete its work and then for Cellmark to begin and complete its work.
His chin looks like a butt.
Stephanie?
Kelvin, are you guys concerned or bothered by the fact about the report that the Ramsey's PI may be digging up dirt on your police department? Are you bothered?
Oh, 420. Oh, that's so good.
Concerned
About what?
about that report?
I'm sorry, I missed it. Concerned
The
about...
Ramsey's PI may be digging up dirt on the Boulder Police Department. Are you bothered or are you concerned about it?
Again, Stephanie, as Chief Kobe has said numerous times, the Boulder Police Department is not going to be distracted by outside issues. Yes, ma'am.
Are you still looking at 4 to 6 weeks as a logical time for Cellmark to return evidence here? Mid-April, I think, was what had been mentioned before.
That could take up to 6 weeks from the time they received it, which was Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Did you want to follow? Okay. Dan?
Kelvin, is it standard procedure, I mean, I guess I know it's not standard procedure to use Cellmark for everything. What kind of situation might arise out of the CBI analysis that would force the police department to send this on to Cellmark?
Dan, you're asking an operational question, and we are still in the midst of a very active, ongoing investigation, and many operational decisions are being made. I am not comfortable trying to evaluate operational decisions while we're still in the midst of that operation.
Is it fair to say it wasn't the intention of investigators at the beginning when they sent stuff to CBI that it would later be sent to Cellmark?
Again, that's an operational question, and I just am not going to be specific about operational issues. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Kelvin, is it clear that John Andrew and Melinda, one of the obstacles that's been eliminated in possibly obtaining an interview with the Ramseys?
We have clearly articulated what our parameters are for how we conduct police interviews. I would be delighted to go over those parameters for you again.
I didn't hear those, but I was wondering if this is one of the negotiating tactics that is being used by the Ramseys to have a sit-down interview.
Dude, she got crazy eyes. I gotta slow that back down. Is she related to Arndt?
Melinda, one of the obstacles that's been eliminated in possibly obtaining an interview with the Ramseys?
We have clearly articulated what our parameters are for how we conduct police interviews. I would be delighted to go over those parameters for you again.
I did hear those, but I was wondering if this is one of the negotiating tactics that is being used by the Ramseys to have a sit-down interview.
I do understand your question. Our posture is that whatever our discussion points are, we are going to keep those discussion points at the table and with the people involved in the discussions. We are not at a point where we're prepared to conduct our discussions through the media.
Through the media,
yes, ma'am.
nice.
Did you have a question?
Were the Ramseys, were their attorneys contacted with regards to the DNA samples being sent to Cellmark?
As you know, we as a matter of policy don't discuss the nature of our conversations with the counsel for the Ramsey family. That would be inappropriate to do. Dave?
Could you clarify again, Kelvin, the medication issue here? Was Mrs. Ramsey's second handwriting sample no good because of this medication? Did you just need another one? I'm unclear when the medication issue entered.
Well, we are trying to gather clear and satisfactory handwriting samples, and we have gathered a third set. Previous sets were influenced by the fact that Ms. Ramsey is on medication, reportedly since
Says who?
December 26th.
So has Patsy Ramsey, when she gave this last sample on Friday, were you guys told and were you cleared by her doctors that she is in fact not on
No,
medication?
because if this one doesn't match, we're gonna say it again.
At this point, the way I will answer that question is that we have not at this point requested a fourth set of handwriting samples. Yes, sir.
We're in the third month of an investigation, and we still do not have a formal interview with two of the people that were in the home the night of the murder. Now, you have said you have established your parameters. At what point are you going to be willing to reevaluate or possibly amend those parameters to clear up what seems to be a glaring omission?
Okay, what specifically is your question?
That is specifically my question. I'm wondering at what point, or perhaps if,
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Good
Those
question.
parameters that you keep talking about in order to get an interview.
These are the parameters that we have established. These are the parameters that we use and that we have found are conducive to a productive information gathering session. That's what we're trying to set out. Those are the parameters we intend to use. Yes, ma'am.
Kelvin, in regard to what you have sent out to Cellmark, the evidence on Tuesday, is that the first and only evidence that's been sent to Cellmark so far?
That is my understanding, is that this was the first and only delivery of material. Charlie?
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Are detectives once again out of state, and if so, how many and which states are they traveling to?
There are investigators out of state. I do not know where they are, and I do
They're
not have a number.
still doing background on the Ramseys, but they don't know if there's ever been a report to Child Protective Services.
For you.
These are
Charles? I'm sorry.
Going back to the Cellmark evidence, are the results on that evidence necessary before you will charge somebody?
The results from Cellmarks will be used as yet another piece of this puzzle as we try to piece together exactly what happened and make a determination in this case.
So you're going to wait until you get those results to do something?
I would say that the results from Cellmark is an important component of this investigation, and certainly we will need those items in order to present to the district attorney information that he will need to determine if there is indeed probable cause to file charges and to move forward in the investigation.
The answer is yes.
The answer is that this is yet another part of our investigation, and it's
Oh my God, just say yes.
Yes, sure.
I'd like to follow up on this gentleman's question. I think the one thing that people across America always say about this story is, why haven't the police sat the two adults that were in that home down and asked them for an interview, be they together or separate, or to get information?
Ma'am, just as you would or I would, we have constitutional rights in this country. One of those
Thank
rights
you.
is to talk to or not talk to authority. And you, and just as I could, we could exercise those rights at any time. And I think it is difficult for other citizens to question another citizen who's exercising their constitutional
I
rights.
don't think the question, sir, is coming toward the Ramseys. I believe it's coming toward the police department. If,
Why won't you just violate their rights?
well, I'm not going to speculate that way. I will just say, so many people that I talk to about this case say, why don't the police just take them downtown and talk to them?
Why don't they just take custody of these people and violate their rights? Jesus Christ.
I had no idea there were so many syllables in the word white.
Is that just not possible?
It doesn't work that way in a democracy, ma'am. You are entitled to constitutional protections. You can't be dragged down and forced to participate in a formal police interview.
Wow.
We are trying to schedule these interviews, and we consider our discussions to be on track, and hopefully this will be scheduled in the near future. You have a question, David?
Are police still interested in speaking, re-interviewing John, Andrew, and Melinda and their mother? And if they are interested in that, is their attorney preventing any future interviews?
I don't have a specific response to that, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
JonBenet, KBPI Boulder.
Hi.
Hi. This may seem like an obvious question, but you have to obtain these samples under witness. I mean, you could not use something that happened prior to the crime. Is that true?
Boy, I am not going to talk specifically about our information gathering process.
And then my other thought was about the pad. Is that still a piece of evidence?
We have various items of evidence that are in police custody. We have never specifically identified any items that were collected from the home.
Okay, because it seems like then also, if that was a piece of evidence, there would be some kind of analysis for the pad, and I was
She plays softball.
wondering how that would happen.
Next question. I am not dismissing. I understand your question. Okay. So, John?
Kelvin, have the Ramseys or Pat Corden said anything about the reason Mrs. Ramsey wants to have a physician present if and when an interview takes place?
If you're asking me if what...
Yeah, because we're accusing her of being on drugs. I never understood that, but they're saying we can't trust your handwriting because you were on drugs. Also, we're going to claim you're on drugs when you come talk to us. That makes more sense now.
A spokesman for the family has said or has not said. I don't have a statement that I'm aware of from them on that. Yes.
Were the Ramseys allowed to monitor the testing that CPI did? Or did they have any...
I am unable to characterize the nature of our evidence gathering or testing process. I'm sorry. Mary?
Kelvin, just to clarify about the third handwriting sample.
Okay.
Is it accurate to say that the previous handwriting samples were inadequate because Mrs. Ramsey was on medication?
that why the police?
No, I added that as an ancillary piece of information. Like when your math teacher or your math textbook would add a bunch of other numbers into a word problem that don't matter. That's basically what I did to try to make it seem like her drug use had something to do with that. Great question, but I'm not going to answer it.
Wanted a third handwriting sample?
Again, police had difficulty obtaining satisfactory samples, so your summation of that is accurate. Yes, I think we have time for a few more questions.
What does CBI not have that Cellmark does have in the way of technology?
I think it's a
the chance to prove wrong that it wasn't the Ramseys?
Certain level of testing, certain equipment. I don't entirely know. It's a level of, I can't specifically say because I'm sure I'd get the scientific lingo incorrect and I wouldn't want to do that.
So there's nothing more you can say about what Cellmark can offer to this case that CBI cannot?
My understanding is that Cellmark has some very specific and expensive testing equipment, and we are...
Specific and expensive, but I can't be more specific than that.
Are retaining those services for use in this case?
Was the doctor present at the time the third handwriting sample was given, representing or either for Mrs. Ramsey or for police department?
I'm sorry?
Was there a physician present at the time of the third handwriting sample?
I'm not going to characterize the nature of our interactions with individual participants.
You said that the author, you said the author of the Shreveport letter has not been positively identified. Has it been tentatively identified? Do you have any strong leads?
No, I think we've had a couple of folks contact us, but we've been unable to confirm that they indeed were the author of that letter. The person behind you, yes.
Yeah, our investigators in the Boulder Police
Where were the Hendersons at that time?
Department or the FBI are using the internet to gather information or conducting kind of a sting operation?
I'm sorry?
Are they using the internet, or even the California police in particular, using the internet to gather information on this case for your...
No, we use
the internet in 1997, did that even have was that a thing?
Beyond email, I mean chat rooms and so forth, and if anything related to California.
I can look into that and get a response back to you.
Related to California, is that the chick that was talking about Fleet?
No, your question. Okay. Kevin, did you have a question? No? Stephanie?
Kelly, were police aware before they went down to Atlanta that John Andrew and Melinda had hired an attorney or had an attorney? Were you aware of that before you went to Atlanta?
Again,
after you got to Atlanta?
Sure. Upon arrival in Roswell, Georgia, police were informed that John B. Ramsey had retained attorney James Jenkins in Atlanta to represent Lucinda Johnson, Melinda, and John Andrew. Mr. Jenkins declined to allow his client to speak with us. As a result, alternative sources of information had to be developed, which delayed our ability to publicly issue this information.
What I'm asking, did you know that when you hit the ground in Atlanta, or did you know that after the fact?
I don't know the exact time of when we found out that an attorney had been retained. Phil, you have the last question.
Did Mr. Jenkins or any other attorneys representing the Ramseys communicate to the police department that they wanted to have John Andrew and Melinda publicly cleared from the last week since Alex Hunter's comments?
Again, we don't characterize the nature of our conversations with legal counsel participating in this case. Did you want to follow?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, and there you have it. 4 press conferences in the months following the Ramsey case. All of them equally as absurd and useless as the previous one. Unbelievable. Sandra was going back to jail. Bud was transferred a black Jaguar to his son. Right. But not in Louisiana. Okay. So that'll do it. I'm fucking hungry. I may possibly do a stream about Diddy. And like, there's so much going on. I've been watching it offline on my own. There's so much going on in this Diddy stuff. Most specifically, okay, in 2018, there was a dude arrested in Doral. Doral is a country club in Florida that Trump bought a while before that. So Trump owned Doral. And some dude was running through Doral with a gun, and the police interrogation interview of this guy, he sounds absolutely bonkers, like he's lost his fucking mind, right? And the guy in the interview is talking about how Diddy is gay and sex trafficking like Epstein, and that Rick Ross and DJ Khaled are gay, and DJ Khaled supports Hamas, and like all this insane shit. But like a lot of it turns out to be true. So I want to go back and watch this interview, and then somebody else did a stream talking about how he might actually be a cooperating witness now. He went from like mentally crazy to like a witness. Dumb did he do. So I might do a stream on that, just to force me to watch the stuff that I've been saying I want to watch. And yeah, appreciate you guys coming by, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, take it easy.